This is The Neutral Position, hosted by Nick Palmisano, bringing honesty and reason back into conversation. Here's your host, Nick Palmisano.
Welcome to The Neutral Position. I am Nick Palmisano, and today I have real estate mogul, Archer, owner of car washes?
Past owner of car washes.
Oh, you already exited the car wash business.
That's a story, man.
But a character, serial entrepreneur, Steve LeNoir.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I'm glad to come back and make this happen again.
Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it brief.
I don't believe that you will keep it brief, sir.
I
was born on a small farm town.
No, not even. Well, kind of.
Raised by wolves.
So funny enough, to already go off on a different story, first time my mom met my now wife, she explained to her that she just found me in a park somewhere wild and feral, tied me up and took me to the house, and that's because there is nothing similar between the two of us. So that was the claim to fame for my mom.
Do you think there's like a chance that that's true?
No.
Okay. All right, I'm just checking. You never know.
Never know. There's going to be some...
All right, that's a bad introduction, though. You actually have to tell us something about yourself.
Yeah, no. So, serial entrepreneur. So, I was in the Army 2008 to 2012, straight out of high school. Worked after being medically retired from the Army, I worked for Google for a year on their indoor mapping project. And after that, pretty much left and was like...
And that was like a fun journey, right? You were driving all over the place? Flying everywhere, doing airports.
Our region was the Southeast and then somehow Minnesota. But we did like the
Southeast and Minnesota.
Yeah, we ended up doing a art museum in Minneapolis it was one of the first ones that had the Van Gogh exhibit. And so that was something it was a really cool experience.
Did you go in a van?
No. Good try. No, we flew. But it was a great experience, and I went from not knowing anything what I wanted to do, no job, VA benefits did not kick in right away like they were supposed to.
That's shocking.
Right?
I am shocked.
Yeah, in 2012 but it was all done, so it should have. But after about a year of it, I decided that it wasn't for me, and our project kind of was starting to get shuttered anyways. And so I left, and I somehow started a video and marketing company in the outdoor industry. That I started it by buying a Walmart video camera and just kind of talking about food plots and talking about deer in Georgia, but I also talked a lot about like how it was helping me as a veteran who had no idea what to do, no idea where to go in life, like nothing. I had nothing going on for me. And that really picked up traction. I caught a very lucky break and was invited to come speak at the local Bass Pro Shops and do a seminar on turkey hunting. That was a big success.
Assuming the animal, not the country.
Both, no, the animal. And I really enjoyed it and was like, okay, maybe this is something I can do, but like wasn't making money doing it. Yeah. I was just creating content and living in my dad's garage, just kind of trying to figure out a way to do it. Ended up, I took a risk. I called I've never been one of those people to wait for the opportunity. So I called the person in charge of booking speakers for the Archery Trade Association for their annual show. Which is a big industry only, it's not open to the public trade show that happens every year. It's actually the world's largest archery trade show. And I gave a pitch and a voicemail about, hey, I want to talk about veterans in the outdoor industry and the impact that the outdoor industry can have on veterans and why they need to hire more veterans. And like 2 months later, I get a phone call of someone very excited to have me come and talk. They're not going to pay me. They're not going to pay for me to get there. I got to get myself there. But it was an opportunity. And the first one went so well, I ended up doing it 3 times over the next 3 years, leading a workshop that, there are people from billion-dollar companies in the hunting industry that are sitting in the room listening to me, and we helped create and provide the motivation. I guess because we weren't involved in the planning of it, but we provided the motivation for some of these companies to start benefit programs for veterans, and to hire more veterans, because there was a tax credit at the time that if you hired a certain amount of disabled veterans, you got a big tax break. And so now there are I don't want to call them organizations, but like offshoots, like the philanthropy side of their business that now takes veterans out hunting, puts on a charity archery tournament for them and things like that, that without having a direct hand in creating, like we were part of the conversation and provided the motivation and kind of the guidance to get that started. And that was something that was really, really cool. Traveled all over the country, all over the world doing that. I was brought on to the Bass Pro Shops team officially in their...
Is there like a secret handshake or something? Like, what do you get when you're on the Bass Pro Shops team?
So when I was on it, we got a stipend of $1,000 of Bass Pro Shops products. So it had to be their house
That's
brand.
it?
Yeah. Yep.
That's all you get.
That's all I got.
This multinational...
Maybe... Do you think their handshake is a limp fish handshake?
No, not on the hunting team.
When I got that offer, I'd be looking like that bass on the outside, like a grand. I get a grand of gear, which is actually like $200 worth of actual cost.
Well, and here's the kicker to it is the reason why companies, especially in the outdoor industry, get away with that is so many people are trying to do it that they're already promoting.
Oh no, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
So they do it because they can, which I wasn't going to knock them. It gave me a big platform. All of a sudden, I had moved back to California, and so I was doing, seminars at the Rancho Cucamonga, California store in Phoenix, Arizona, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Do you get paid for those?
Nope. But again, it was a platform. It was a platform for something that I was passionate about and talked about. And then I did get brought. I eventually used that as leverage to get involved with other companies like Mossy Oak, Plano Synergy, which has when I was with them, they had about 26 different brands in the outdoor space, which led to some paid opportunities, more gear, and then also if you were in the top for events, like I was the #1 big game hunting expert for them for a year. They took me out they took all of the top people from every discipline out to a giant luxury ranch in Texas, basically as a reward, and said, here's your credit for where we are, and use it how you want to. And so it was an amazing experience. It's somewhere to take the kids. To take the kids and my wife and stuff there for the weekend. It's like $6,000 before you get into hunting.
Yep.
So it provided a lot of amazing opportunities. It provided a lot of speaking opportunities for me. I got to talk about what I was passionate about, hunting, and how it helped me through a lot of things. But ultimately, it also led to a relationship I formed with the local NRA president who was in commercial real estate. And we were drinking some bourbon one day over at his house, and he's like, hey, man, he's like, I just sold a $30 million hospital building for Kaiser. I'm like, that's cool. He's like, you want to see what I got paid for it? And I had no idea. I was completely ignorant. I was 25 years old, completely ignorant to real estate, how it worked, anything like that. I knew my parents owned homes, but that's it. And then he showed me a check for $3 million that was his check. Well, his check was $2 million of it. The government got $1 million of it,
That's pretty good. If the government only got $1 million, that's pretty good. I'm like, wow, that's a steal.
But
that was a pun.
So I asked him, how do I get into this?
Yep.
And that led me into real estate. I started calling around, and I called the brokerage in my hometown. The broker of it was Keller Williams. The broker of it was a Vietnam vet. So he and I clicked right away. He was also the instructor for the real estate school. So I started doing that. And
is real estate school like hardcore?
So it can.
Do they drop you?
They have
Do
fraternities.
you have to do push-ups?
No.
Is there hazing?
No.
I was a Phi Gam at real estate school.
Yeah. No.
Like you're doing the ice luge.
Yeah.
No, so the truth of the matter is it's one of those where it's completely on you. You can take as long as you want. You can take as fast as legally allowed, which in the California was like 100 days basically.
Why does California have a rule for everything? Like it's like there's a rule for everything.
Did you see in San Francisco, Elon Musk just got hit with a fine because he didn't have the permits to take down the old Twitter sign? He didn't. They can have people, defecating in the street and rampant drug use.
The crazy thing is, he's being courted everywhere. Like, take Twitter somewhere.
Yeah.
No, it's not Twitter anymore. It's X, but I'm never going to call it X.
Did you see they updated it on the mobile apps? Like, everywhere. It's just X now.
I hate it. I honestly hate it. And I'm a fan of the guy. Like, I don't think, like, one of the problems people have is they don't accept, like, they want perfect mega people.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, listen, for a guy to be that kind of smart when it comes to business, and I'm not even, like, vision and business, right? Like,
Yeah.
those are the two things he has. I know he's not, like, the best engineer. You know,
right.
I know all that. He's going to be fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like, great people throughout history are weird.
Yeah.
You know, like George Washington couldn't handle, like, the troops not being disciplined, even when, like, they didn't have food. They were eating shoe leather.
Yeah.
They're eating shoe leather, and he's like, you know, why don't these guys have their shit together? Like, he was weird. Like, great people are weird because they fixate on specific things. And, like, so, you know, people have, like, a beef because Elon Musk, you know, makes, like, sexual jokes or whatever. You know, he's a fucking weird guy. He's always going to be. Like, he's not a normal person.
Yeah.
That's why he's doing the shit he's doing, and we're sitting here talking about it.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Like, but, I digress. Continue, please.
So anyway, so I went through the real estate school, and it's, you know, you pay basically, it ranges in places, but I think it was $400, $500. I was living in a camper in my mom's driveway at the time. Like, that was me.
She didn't let you in the house.
No.
She's like, you can be in the camper.
Pretty
that's
much.
all. That's all you get.
Yeah.
I put you out already. You're not coming back in.
That was for us to each have our own space away from each other, basically.
Gotcha. But she let you in to, like, shower.
Yeah.
All right. That was
sometimes.
That was nice of her.
When it smelled. But so I got through it, and I met the team leader. So all the Keller Williams offices, their CEO of the office, their office manager of their market center, as I call them, is called a team leader.
Mm-hmm.
And the team leader that I had, I don't know what it was about some conversations that we had or, like, the relationship we started to build, but, like, went out of his way to, because I was always asking for knowledge. I was always asking for information. I wanted to hit the ground running, not necessarily out of desperation, because I was pretty good at hiding the fact that I was flat broke. But, you know, there were plenty of times where I was stressing about the lunch bill because he wanted to go out to lunch and talk about stuff, and it was picked up without me knowing about it. But also went out of his way to teach me some of the better parts of scripting, and you know, he put the extra effort in that he really didn't have to. That led to very quickly finding success in the business. There were people, I was in the
What was it like to close your first deal?
It was wild. So the first listing I ever took was the $2.5 million Pirate House. But the first deal I ever closed, I actually got it through, funny enough.
So you got to tell people, like, even though you and I have discussed this, people have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And also, how do you get like on the radar, like how do you pick up a listing?
Yeah.
You know, is that from your mentor? He passes it on?
No,
or like how does that happen?
So I went and I took my license. So you go and take your state test. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to take 3 hours. I was done in 45 minutes. Like, I was so far ahead. Like, I looked and saw where the guy was next to me, and I was like, I had to have blown this because I'm like 100 questions ahead of him. And they don't tell you right then and there that you pass. They give you a stapled up piece of paper that says it, but you're not allowed to open it until you leave the building. So as soon as I got in the elevator and the doors closed, I ripped it open and found out that I passed. And it's like 8:45 in the morning. I was supposed to be there till noon. Mm-hmm. I got back in my car, and I remember I had to get gas. And I remember I checked my bank account. I had $5.62 in it, and that's it. And I was an hour away, and I needed gas. So I made my account negative. You know, the chick at the gas station, I let my account go negative and overdrew it to fill up my gas tank. I drove right back to the office. I told them that I passed because they were all wondering why the hell I was back so soon. Like, they assumed I panicked, left, whatever. But when I told them I passed, I immediately went to work. I pulled my laptop out. I took one of the open cubicles that wasn't assigned to anybody. And I started going through. You can go on Zillow and find for sale by owners that are on there. And you can actually get the owner's contact information on there. So I went through and I called every single for sale by owner in that area, and a lot of them I didn't even connect with the voicemail, went to whatever. Most people don't answer phone numbers they don't know. This guy answered his phone, and the guy with the $2.5 million house, I had never even been in like a $700,000 house. I grew up in a 2-bedroom, 800 square foot house in Riverside, California, and
that's about a $2.5 million house now in California.
So yeah. My mom sold it. She bought it for like 80, and just a few years ago she sold it for like 450 for 800 square feet, 2-bed, 1-bath.
She's still in California?
No, she actually moved closer to us now.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, so she can see the grandkids and stuff. Yeah. But so my whole mode of thought, it wasn't out of desperation, but it was a little bit. That's always there. But it was definitely of a, well, why the hell can't I? Why wouldn't I be able to do this? Why can't I do this? And I'd always bugged Brian, like, hey, once I have an appointment, like, what do I do? And his response always was, well, get the appointment. Get an appointment, and then we'll talk, and we'll figure it out from there. And so I'm on the phone with this guy for 20 minutes. I set an appointment to go see his house in 2 days and talk to him about it. And I walk into Brian's office, and I'm like, hey, man. So Brian's the team leader. I walk into his office, and I'm like, hey, man, so we got to have that conversation now. He's like, okay, tell me about it. I was like, oh, it's $2.5 million. And he dropped everything that he was doing, and we spent the next hour and a half doing laps around the office, running through scripting, role playing, talking about how to keep it open-ended conversations, stay away from yes no, how to really make it more about what he's looking for versus what I can do. When you break it down to it, it's really talking about features versus benefits and finding out exactly what the client needs and putting the client first. And 2 days later, I went on that appointment by myself. No, I had other agents that were more experienced, third generation real estate agents that wanted to, help me, partner with me, whatever. Like, it's a big deal.
Steal it from you.
Yeah, and not necessarily. Some of them it was out of like genuine kind, but some of them it was also like, who the hell is this guy and why does he have this?
Yeah.
And I got the agreement signed, and he told me he's like I'm gonna give it to you for 30 days, and you need to bring people that aren't local here. And I did. We put on a broker open. We brought in people from Orange County, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach. We brought in the agents who would have the book of business and the clientele that same house where they are is 5, 6, 15 million, depending on the neighborhood, versus, $2.5 million. He was way overpriced, but I wasn't going to fight him on that in the beginning. What I did is I used the reviews from the brokers from these luxury areas that he really wanted. I got their opinions, and I used that to kind of beat him down on the price a little bit, and we ended up getting it done. But that wasn't...
What did it sell for? And this was a super unique house. You're downplaying it. Like this...
the guy
had a pirate-themed house.
Yeah, so he was an electrical engineer. He had a time at the Magic Castle. He was a magician. It had a 1,200 bottle wine cellar, like in an area that none of this should have existed. And he worked on every pirate movie leading up to the first Pirates of the Caribbean. So Pan, Hook, all of them. So when you're walking into the front, and I can get you photos of this if you want to put them up too.
Yeah.
Like not the master bedroom, one of the guest bedrooms. The floating bed that's hanging by chains in there is Hook's bed from the movie. They blew a hole in the wall and put the stained glass window from the back of Hook's ship into it. Like everything in there was from the movie.
That's wild.
It's wild.
There's a pirate coming out of the ceiling in the bar. I mean, on a rope. Like there's cannons at the front door as you walk into it, and it's old Spanish hacienda style. So all the rooms opened out into a main courtyard. There's no hallway, and everything was pirate themed, and he hated that I called it the Pirate House, and he wanted none of the pirate stuff mentioned in the marketing. He wanted...
How do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you not mention,
That was, well... And
now, the weird thing, though, is like this guy was willing to walk away from all his pirate stuff.
Yeah, he was willing to sell it all with it. And they were moving to... So, funny enough, well, not so funny, but his wife was from Ukraine, and they were selling the house, and this was in 2016. They were selling the house to be able to afford to get the rest of her family out of Ukraine and into New Zealand, because there was already stuff starting to happen. And obviously we see now what's really blown into it. But that was their goal, was they were going to sell their house. They were going to buy a place in New Zealand and spend the money on airfare, getting everybody there.
So maybe someone, like in dodgeball, when the guy who thinks he's a pirate, like Vince Vaughn tells him like he's not a pirate. Maybe that happened.
Maybe that's what happened. Yeah. Maybe that was him.
Yeah.
You're not a pirate. And he was like, oh God.
So selling everything.
The hard part was in the
I mean, if I had put that much time into building the pirate house, I'd be like, honey, I really appreciate your family, but
they could have all lived there. They all could have moved there.
Why don't they just move to the Czech Republic? It's it's nearby. It's cheap.
Well, the house was big enough, like it could have, because it was only her mom, her brother, and his wife and kids.
Yeah.
So like they could have easily lived in this house too, and because there's no hallways, it's such a big place that there was plenty of room for everyone. But the master bedroom and bathroom, completely modern. Completely 100% modern. Like the shower in the master bathroom looked like a spaceship. Like it was wild.
So, but no pirate theme at all.
Not a single one.
Well, what about the hook bed or whatever?
That was in the guest bedroom.
The wife's like, you don't bring this.
That was in the role.
Yeah, the wife was like, listen, I have endured your stupid pirate habit, but in our room, it's going to be real shit.
I've always had a joke that the pirate bedroom was the role playing room, because it was right off of the bar, so you could stumble there after a couple of drinks.
That's right.
But it was a wild place.
So you sell the pirate house.
That wasn't the first one I sold. First one I sold, actually, I got this client through. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but I looked a month ago to make sure. It was through the Range 15 marketing group for SoCal. I had put it out there that I just got licensed, and one of the guys who was a veteran that lived in Seal Beach, I believe.
So Range 15 closed your first.
Yeah, man. But
folks,
it was a nightmare of a deal. It took 100 and most deals take 30 days to close. 110 days to close.
Wow.
And we had to have the sheriff.
And that was your first one.
That was my first one. Was absolute.
So
hell.
You were working for 3 months before you closed anything.
Oh yeah. I was.
Oh, that's tough, man.
I was
because you were all happy that you like finally did it, and it's only based on sales.
100% commission.
You have no stipend or anything.
Yep. So there are plenty to, like, that's the thing. That's why so many people get back out of real estate. 80% of realtors are out of the business by year 2.
Excuse me.
You're good, man.
I wasn't yawning because of your story. I was yawning because I haven't been sleeping much lately.
Yeah. Hey, you should work harder.
I should work. I need to work harder.
But it was a nightmare of a deal. We had to call the sheriff's department because the buyers had hired contractors to go in and take out the popcorn ceiling, but the deal wasn't closed yet, and their agent had given them the combination code to get into the place. So I'm an hour away with my girlfriend at the time, and I get a phone call from my sellers, and they are frantic because there are people in their house scraping the paint out, painting, and the deal's not done. And so we had to have the sheriff's department out there. We'd have all this stuff done.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and but we got it done. Everybody got what they wanted out of it, and that was my first deal.
So what are you doing for money prior to that?
I mean,
just the VA check they come in by that point.
I was getting $1,000 a month, and I was straight.
You were living on that.
Yeah, it was just me. It was just me and my dog at the time.
Yeah, you can do it. With living on your mom's property, you can do it, but that's tight.
Yeah,
that's tight.
It was very tight, man.
So you closed that deal. How big is that first check?
So it was $15,000, but I'm at a 70-30 split, which is normal.
Yeah.
So before taxes, I made like 12, and then I obviously had to put money up for taxes.
And then after California taxes, you got $400.
No, I think I made like 7 or 8. Which
how'd that feel?
Really good. I immediately took half of it and I dumped it back into marketing, back into my business, back into some coaching and things like that, because I knew that I could see that I was going to start doing really well. And I'm one of those people that I always make sure as much as I pay myself, I put it all back I put the majority of it back into the business.
What does marketing look like if you're a broker? What do you think good marketing is for a broker?
Yeah, so this was 2016. So YouTube's kind of starting to become a thing, but it isn't what it is. It still wasn't anywhere near what it is now. Facebook marketing was cheap and easy.
So you're talking just the same marketing everyone else does. There's no special place.
No, because and that was the one thing I avoided, was because there were a lot of agents paying for programs and paying for things that it was like hundreds of dollars a month with a year-long contract locked in.
Yep.
But the leads that they gave you, the phone numbers were the old landlines, or you got the cell phone for one of their kids.
Yeah,
and that's a weird conversation, because I had that happen one time where like I sent a text message instead of a phone call, and like it's one of their 14-year-old kids.
Oh, wow.
So that obviously doesn't go over well.
Yeah. Why are you texting my kid?
Yeah. And this was before the FCC really cracked down, because now if you use any type of program to send out like a mass text message without people giving you their consent, like if you buy a leads list and just send a mass text out, per text message is a $10K fine.
Yep.
This was before all that. So you could plug 2,000 people in there and send a text out, and that was one of the things. But really, I tried to keep everything as cheap as possible, but I wanted everything to be as consumer facing. It was more about impressions for me than necessarily anything else. And it was, I was new at it, so none of my mom's friends wanted to give me their business. My girlfriend's parents gave a different agent the business. For a $500,000 house. Like it was
that sucks.
It does. But
why wouldn't they want to give you the business?
So in the town that we were in, this lady was kind of like known as like the real estate agent lady.
Yep. Did you take her out?
Eventually.
Yeah.
Because, and part of it is she got complacent. And that's the number one killer, in my opinion, of these older agents. I don't want to call them old heads, but these older agents.
I mean, you just did. Is that what you call them, old heads?
What happened is her kneecaps got cracked.
No, she started showing up.
Hard to sell houses without a tongue.
Yeah.
Well, so this was a horse town. So like she'd show up on her horse, the whole parade of that. She'd show up on her horse to the horse properties, but she started showing up in hoodies. She started showing up in dirty jeans. She showed up acting like she had it before she even had it. Didn't know that she was really competing with someone like me, who is calling everybody that I can.
Yep.
I am reaching out to everybody that I can, with no warm relationships really at all, simply because I didn't have any other choice. I wasn't going to go work for I wasn't going to go work for a company. I just refused to at that point. And I wanted to fully invest and trust in myself that I could do this.
Did you ever show up on a horse?
Imagine a media agency that can make a documentary that qualifies for Academy Award voting. Imagine another that created a Billboard charting music video for Five for Fighting. Imagine another that has raised so much money for nonprofits in its first year working on the Classy.org platform that at the end of the year, it was named as only the second marketing partner in Classy's history. Imagine another firm that can cover your events anywhere on planet Earth and provide a compelling series of videos about those events immediately and to your needs. And imagine another still that can help your e-commerce business take it to the next level. Now imagine that they're all the same business, Diesel Jack Media. Some of you might be saying, hey, Nick, isn't that your company? And to that I answer, can a company like Diesel Jack Media really be owned? Or can it merely be coaxed out like a beautiful butterfly on a spring day? As you listen to this podcast that, by the way, Diesel Jack Media created, you may be asking yourself, what's our secret? It's simple. We try not to suck. Sounds easy, right? It should be, but somehow marketing companies and media agencies always seem to get it wrong. You see, we don't make PowerPoints about doing work. We do the work because we like the work. And if one of our ideas doesn't work, you know what we do? We try another one again and again and again until our ideas start to work. Because not quitting until it's right is at the heart of not sucking. And as previously mentioned, that's what we try not to do here. Diesel Jack Media. We try not to suck. Visit us at dieseljackmedia.com. That is dieseljackmedia.com.
Did you ever show up on a horse?
No.
A donkey.
Yeah.
No, we'll get into the cool Newport story. It wasn't a horse or a donkey, but it was something pretty cool. It was we'll say bull. But it got to the point where I was starting to have a lot of success, but it wasn't, the majority of people, to have a successful real estate business for a long time, you build a book of business, you're getting repeat business, you're getting referral business, I had none of that. Didn't stay in my hometown. I left and joined the Army right away. So no one knew me. No one knew me as an adult. Everybody that I grew up with was either into, bad shit or was gone, did like I did. Or they waited till I have to laugh when I go back to Facebook and I see all the people that used to run their mouths about me joining in 2008, and then 5 years later they joined the Army. And I ran into a couple of them in Schofield when I was stationed there. But so everything that I had to have, like I fought and tooth and nail clawed for, but I took in every piece of training and education that I could. And Keller Williams really is a great company for that. They provide so much free training, free education, and there's just this big content library that you don't have to wait for a class. You don't have to wait for somebody. You can always be learning. You can just dive into it. And I'm one of those people that's what I do. I read. I mean, to this day, I listen more than I read nowadays, honestly. But I go through probably 30 to 40 books a year at least. Some of them are just for fun, for the, historical fiction, but the majority of them are some type of business, some type of growth, basically. And so through all of that, I started halfway through the year. 6 months into it, I beat everyone that started at the beginning of the year, and I was rookie of the year in our office.
What do you get for that?
Nothing. You get
nothing.
A little certificate.
You just get everyone else in the office to hate you.
Yeah, and you get a little certificate that you can show.
Hey, he's better than you guys.
Yeah. So, and then about almost a year into it, Brian, who's our team leader and our mentor, he pulled me aside and let me know before everybody else that he was going back into production, going to a different office, still same ownership group, still Keller Williams, but he wanted to go back into production with his wife and be in their town where they lived, because he was commuting like an hour.
Is production a town?
No. Production is in like going back into sales. So he was going to go back, because when you're a team leader for Keller Williams, you cannot be an agent. You are not doing deals yourself, because your focus is recruiting and the growth of your agents and building your office.
Did they not make enough money, or?
So in some places they make a lot of money depending on it, and it depends on the franchise ownership team too. So it really comes down to how you negotiate your deal and whether or not. And Brian's one of those people that he could make way more money as an agent than he ever would as a team leader, including bonuses, including, it's not hard to, I say it's not hard to, but very few people do it. But if you are good at what you do and you practice it and you treat it like a craft that you're constantly working on, it is not very hard to make over six figures.
So if I'm like, tomorrow I'm done with all this diesel jack stuff. I'm sick of Dan in particular,
obviously.
I want to be a real estate agent. What do you recommend I do?
So first of all, you stick with Dieseljack. It would be number one, because this alone gives you so much leverage over it, because now it's about content. It's about impressions. It's about touching. So I can't tell you how many people have turned to becoming.
Dan went to jail for that.
For content?
Touching.
For touching.
Oh, touching. Yeah. Was that in Kyrgyzstan or?
No, that was at Daniels Middle School.
It was just a week ago too.
Oh, see, he took it to a darker place than I was willing to go.
Oh, it's okay. So my recommendation would be find a good real estate school. You can do it online if you want to, but finding an office where you're in there, have a broker to talk to, someone that's been doing it for a while, is always going to be better than trying to do it online on your own. Because what it is, the tests teach you about the laws of it, but none of the actual business side of it. They don't teach you how to get clients. They don't teach you how to generate leads. They don't teach you how to negotiate even. It'll show you how to make changes on a contract and have an addendum, but you won't understand how you can leverage the fact that the roof is almost too old, so you can ask for a $20,000 credit for your clients on the price of the home, because it's going to need a new roof in 5 years. You're not going to have the contacts for the roofers to go and back that up and things like that. So I highly recommend you do a in-person one that is also going to help you hold yourself accountable, because it's very easy to throw the $400 at it, log in a couple of times, just leave it by the wayside because it's an option. It's not your main goal.
Yep.
And a lot of people look at it that way. You know, we were in our office in Norco. We had I was sitting with Brian one time, and an agent came in like bawling her eyes out because she hadn't had any sales in like a year, and her husband asked her when she was going to quit her expensive hobby. You know, he was the main breadwinner for the home. You know, hers was to help them make travel money and stuff like that. But they were spending money on marketing. They were spending money on extra accreditations and things like that. But if we're honest, she wasn't implementing them, right? Like I can go become a military relocation specialist and get the certification and put it on there. But if Stephen LeNoir, who is a veteran, comes in and has the same conversation with someone who isn't a veteran, but they are accredited, I'm going to get the deal, whether I have the accreditation or not, because I can speak to the situation.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people that go for all of the acronyms behind their name, but it doesn't mean anything if you're not willing to act on it. And so,
no, I mean, listen, you know, like I've bought properties, sold property, like it really comes down to like, do you trust this person?
Yeah.
Is the person responsive?
Yeah.
You know, like if you write a realtor and you have, you know, like this is when you're buying or selling property, it's top of mind.
Yeah.
You know, so like, you know, as an example, you know, the office building that we bought, you know, in Chapel Hill, you know, we originally were talking to a few people. Well, one person was incredibly responsive. It was like, hey, we'd like to see some properties. Like same day, it was like, hey, I could get you into this afternoon to go look at.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't go that afternoon because we had but it was like.
But it showed you they were serious about it.
Yeah. And then other people, it was like, you know, I could get you in next week. I got this going on. I got that going on. And like, I appreciate people are busy, but it wasn't that. It was,
right.
You could tell that they weren't going to put themselves out.
Right. Oh yeah. And that's the other side of it is you got to be ready too. Cause like we lived in Southern California. So when my wife were dating at the time, and you know we had her son with us, like we'd go to Disneyland a lot. There were plenty of times where we had to take two cars because halfway through the day we knew I was going to get a phone call to go show property, to go meet for a listing, to go do whatever, and I walked out of the park and left them there to go have fun because I had to go do work, I had to go do business. You know,
that's entrepreneurship
for sure.
You know, it's tough. Like people in regular jobs really don't understand that, like, you're never off.
No.
I mean, you can be like, you know, like last week I actually went on vacation and the team did a great job of not dragging me into stuff I didn't need to, but I still had to answer like 4 or 5 things.
Yeah.
You know, but that was a good week.
Right.
But like, if there's a lot going on, like, you can't stop. Like,
or if you're the only person. You know, and that's for me with everything that I've done, I've for the most part I've only been the only person, and so it has been, you know, 10 o'clock at night, and one of the agents that's on my team, you know, when I eventually built a team and stuff, is calling me because the agent on the other side of their deal is deciding to get real snippy and short and doesn't understand, or they just don't understand. The other agent doesn't have the knowledge of, no, this is how it works. This is what we're doing. This is what we're asking for. This is why we worded it this way, you know? And so it's 10 o'clock at night. I got to jump up. I got to take their phone call, and then I got to talk them down and let them know, like, hey, it's 10 o'clock. There's no attorneys working. There's no mortgage lenders working. Ain't nobody working right now. Let them know, and to help emotions cool down, let them know that we will handle it first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
But, you know, a mistake I made was I made the comment in front of a couple clients like, hey, I'm up at 5:30 and I'm usually at the gym by 5:45. So they would think that it's okay to call me at 5:45 because they know I'm awake. They know I'm at the gym, but I'm like, this is my time. If you want me at my highest and best, you got to let me get there in the morning. But when you're flat broke, when you've got no other options and your back's completely against the wall, you don't set those boundaries because you don't know how to. You don't know how to.
You can't.
And because you're afraid.
You almost can't.
Yeah,
you're afraid. But I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I understand it.
So, and part of the issue too, now, like with Zillow, you can get an agent, and people have almost have the expectation now of, I'm going to call an agent on Zillow, and they're going to get me to this property right this minute. Or I can't tell you, when we did a little bit of advertising with Zillow, I can't tell you how many times I got a call, especially with land. hey, we're at the gate to the property. We're wondering if we could take a look. And it's like, I live an hour away from there. I'm at lunch. Like, we got to have a little bit of reasonable expectations here, you know. But if I was still back in the very beginning of my career,
you would be driving.
I'd have been gone.
I'll be there in 45 minutes.
Yeah, I'll be 45 minutes, and I'll bring the sheriff with me. Like, it's, you know, but that's really how it is. And so through, you know, when we're going through it, and when I was going through it, and when he told me that he's going back into production, I kind of realized, okay, I like doing this. I'm good at it. I could honestly sit there and look at myself and say I'm good at it, and which is still very difficult for me to do. It's very hard for me to praise myself when it comes to this stuff, because I feel like I'm being egotistical.
Yeah.
And I decided, I was like, okay, I want to make more money. I don't want to necessarily have to work as hard, and I want to have more influential connections. And so I made appointments with the Huntington Beach, California team leader for Keller Williams, the North Hollywood team leader for Keller Williams, and the Newport Beach team leader for Keller Williams. And I got in with the Newport Beach one first. And I sat down and I talked to him, and I let him know, like, I've been doing this for a year. I'm doing well. I was rookie of the year. This is how I operate my business. This is what I look at doing. And in the very first meeting, you know, we were in there for like 2 hours, because, you know, it's easy to have a short conversation with me. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, we're actually opening another office about 10 miles from here in Costa Mesa. I'm going to be the owner of it, and I'm looking for someone to partner with to grow a team, to take market share and build the office up there, but also be my eyes and ears in the office. I'll handle all the financial responsibility. It would just be on you to sell houses, recruit people to the team, coach them, and just kind of help it grow and be some type of beacon in that office. And I probably, I don't know if I did or not, but I probably went white in the face, because I'm like, dude, I've been doing this for a year. Like I was like, I don't know why I'm this guy that you're asking. But instead of saying any of that, I was like, yeah, let's do it. You know, screw it. Let's do it. You know, let's make this happen. And so my life took a complete 180 to where I wasn't worried about the marketing expenses. You know, we leveraged the fact that my partner was the owner of the office, and we got really good deals on advertising with companies that wanted to partner with us. And I got to focus in on recruiting and growing and picking. I really focused on picking new agents, because they didn't have concrete bad habits. You know, like a big red flag for me, especially when I'm talking to real estate agents, is if they talk about how back in the day they used to have the book of listings. And if you wanted to go see what houses were for sale and you didn't want to drive around for hours, you had to go to the real estate office and get a phone book style book that's what they had control of. But now, because information's everywhere, that doesn't exist. So if you tell me, like, oh, back in the good days, when that's the good day and you were the gatekeeper of all the information, like, you will never be on my team. And most of the time I wouldn't even bring you to the office unless you were doing big numbers.
Just if they knew about,
not if they knew about it, but if they saw that, if they looked at innovation and technology as a hindrance to their business. Yeah, as a hindrance to their business now, you know.
Yeah, because it ruined the monopoly.
Yeah.
It ruined them. Yeah.
Well, or they think, you know, and it is a little bit this way, but the consumer likes to think that they can Google everything, right? But again, you know, when you sit down and have that open conversation with your clients or potential clients, even when you get to the point that you're able to screen your business, you let them know, like, hey, I understand, you know, what do you do for work? Like, oh, I'm a cardiac surgeon. Okay. Would you trust me to come in and perform, you know, assist you on a heart surgery? No. Okay. This is what I do for a living. I'm a professional at this. I negotiate about houses every single day. I can tell you interest rates. I've got a, box here with business cards for every specialty that we might need, from handyman to plumber to HVAC to roof to whatever. And if you don't like that guy, I got 5 more people to replace him. This is my business. This is what I do, and this is what I'm passionate about.
But you can understand why people wouldn't trust that.
For sure.
Because most people are not good.
Yeah.
Like I would say most realtors are not good.
Yeah.
They're fine. They execute deals.
Right.
But they're not what I would call a professional.
But so I would tell you the way that we would kind of break that first barrier. Our first appointment is not at a house. You would come into my office, and I ask people this when they kind of give me pushback on this. I ask people this, like, when you go see an attorney, when you go see a profession, when you go see a accountant, do they come to you? No. This is my profession. This is my business. This is the appointment time that I have available. And you're going to push people away. And in the beginning, you can't do that. But when you start to get to a certain level that you are building an actual business of it and you are taking action in it, you have to do it that way. Otherwise, you are not taking your time seriously.
That's fair, because I would think, and again, I know nothing about real estate other than the properties that I've been involved in, but I would think that to do it right, you would have to build a strategy.
Right. Especially and that's specifically on the buy side. Now, if we're talking about selling a piece of property, I'm coming to you because I have to come see it. I can't just give you an idea over the phone. I have to come see it. I got to come see if I can see, you didn't tell me that your water heater's been leaking, right? Or, you have a crack running up one of your walls, or the fact that you're on 50 acres. And is that 50 acres on a steep incline that nothing can be done with it? Or is it pasture land? Is it, beachfront property, whatever it is. But yeah, we come in, we bring our buyers in, and it also gives us an opportunity to gauge their seriousness on it too. Because we have a questionnaire, like a survey that we basically go over with them. We find out, have you already been talking to a lender? What's the process? What stage of the process are you in? Okay, you haven't. Guess what? I have a lender right here in my office that does my own personal deals. Like, I put my money in his hands, I'd like to have you meet with him, and if you don't like him, he doesn't get the deal, and we can take it wherever you want to take it.
Got it.
We basically show them that I want to be more of a resource and a consultant. That's how I want to be viewed, not as the real estate guy. Because there's plenty of people walking around in those Century 21 gold jackets and doing their real estate photos, from 40 years ago. Yeah. Their headshots are from 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, and you meet them, and it's like they look like
you can tell they haven't closed a deal because they haven't had Botox in 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm not lying either.
No, it's weird. I mean, like, some of them are weird.
Yeah, and so that was always our way of doing it. And so KW Costa Mesa, we started in a subleased bank building with a Wi-Fi puck hotspot, and there was 7 of us to begin with. We had Cole, who was going to be the team leader. We had Jessica, who was our temporary MCA at the time, and we had a couple other agents and stuff in there. And we had leased some other offices out to like wholesalers and things and commercial real estate guys. And then it was me, and we had one new guy who now I'm so proud of this guy now. He worked with me in real estate. He's actually at SFAS right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he was like 19, 20 years old when he started working for me.
For those of you that don't know, that's like the Special Forces selection course.
Yeah. So he ended up leaving real estate to join the Army. And so he and I have been connecting, and he's going to tell me if he makes it through and when his graduation is and stuff, because I'm going to come up for it. But it's and that's how I met my wife. I actually recruited her to leave Greenbacks.
SFAS?
No, no, at Costa Mesa.
Have you noticed that Dan Mercer has barely said anything today?
Yeah.
I mean, he's just sitting there at the end. Like
you asked for high energy.
Yeah,
I've been throwing some stuff.
I asked him to bring high energy. Do you feel like this is high energy?
I've been throwing some stuff in, and I'm learning about real estate. I know nothing about it.
It is probably.
It's the aspartame and the crystal light.
You guys missed this, but before the show started, we were talking about BPAs, right? BPAs.
Yeah, BPAs
and all the microplastics that are in our blood now. And apparently we take on, according to this expert right here, we are taking on 1 credit card's worth of plastic a day in BPAs. Now, because I have the Amex Platinum card, that's metal, so I'm not, none of that is coming into my system.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that I'm drinking about 4 to 5 of those Crystal Lights a day.
Yeah.
So,
I've always felt like Crystal Light tastes like I know my body is like, this is fake.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just only this specific flavor. It's raspberry green tea Crystal Light. It is the tastiest.
Are you getting paid by
I was about to say,
I would
did they
love
pay to
to
play?
I probably spent thousands of dollars in the last 10 years on those boxes. I would love to be sponsored by Crystal Light. Raspberry green tea Crystal Light is the most delicious, delectable powder. Oh my gosh.
This is why companies in the hunting industry don't have to pay people. Because of
people like Dan.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
exactly.
No, but
did you really want this energy though?
I will tell you, the Crystal Light though, mix the powder straight with vodka, and it just tastes like the Crystal Light. I had a very.
I used to do that with the raspberry lemonade.
Yep, I had a horrible experience with that. My buddy and we split like probably a gallon of vodka in a day.
Well, yeah, that's a bad idea, buddy.
It was, man. Yeah. I was fresh into real estate at the time too. I had a rough morning the next morning. I walked in, I opened my laptop, and I blinked, and 15 minutes had gone by, and I hadn't even logged into my.
That's young people shit.
Yeah. I was 25.
Yeah,
I get anxiety thinking about being in that position now. You know, like thinking about a hangover like that and having to work. Oh God!
Doesn't the microplastics in your blood block the hangover?
Like, I don't want to be young people drunk ever again.
No.
And don't get me wrong. Like, I had plenty of that experience. I mean, I was in Europe when Red Bull came out.
Oh yeah.
You know, so like, vodka Red Bull was like
Jaeger bombs was the thing when I was in Korea.
That was a thing. That was a bigger thing in the States.
Yeah.
So like in Europe, everything was vodka Red Bull.
Well,
we drank vodka Red Bull, and then I got back to the States. Came back to Fort Benning, and then everyone was doing Jaeger bombs, and nobody was drinking vodka Red Bull, and I was like,
You got to remember, Jaeger bombs aren't classy enough for officers.
That's true. That's true.
But let alone West Pointers. Man.
That's a good point.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised you're not banned.
I am glad that you acknowledge that. You know, like
I have no problem.
I'm a fancy gentleman.
Yeah, I have no problem admitting that.
You know, did you guys ever hear of?
I also don't like Jaeger very much.
Jaeger's gross, man. There was this one shot that when I was in school, we used to do this. Sometimes it's called liquid cocaine, and it was Jaeger, Goldschlager, and now I'm forgetting. There's two other things. I distinctly remember the last time that I took one of those shots, and I haven't drank in years, but with three buddies, we took one, and then there was like a trash can in each corner of the room, and we all looked at each other and immediately beelined to the trash can and all just threw up. It's the most disgusting, and I don't know why they call it liquid cocaine, because like it just knocks you out, you know? It doesn't get you up.
Yeah.
Goldschlager, I'm actually going to do research on this and come back to you.
There goes our energy.
There goes the energy.
No, man, I was a Caribou Lou guy. 151 rum.
Oh, dude.
151 was in the liquid cocaine.
151 is
a bottle of it, and then a half gallon of pineapple juice, and a bottle of Malibu.
We had a party one time where this was like the lieutenant days, where 151 was like the main alcohol for all of the mixers.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Oh yeah, you could strip paint off of doors.
151. Oh my God. All right, so liquid cocaine.
I have no interest in that.
No.
Like, I don't want to, like sitting down with friends and having like 3, maybe 4 like old fashions or something.
Yeah.
That's about my max now. Like, it's the second I feel like I'm starting to lose control in any way, I'm done.
Yeah. So my buddy of mine, that was the mortgage lender that I worked with in Norco, and then also when I went to Newport Beach, he and I would get together and we would buy, I can't think of the name of it now, but it was a bottle of pre-mixed old fashions. So not ideal,
Not great.
but we would lock ourselves in his office in an afternoon, and we would just start cold calling everybody and getting through it. And we'd go through. There's plenty of times where like they had a movie theater next to their office. There's plenty of times when I got done with our calls, and like we would book appointments like crazy. We were way more personable, way more confident. Might have slurred a little bit towards the end, but like we booked appointments like crazy.
Because you don't care.
Right.
You don't care if they reject you.
Yeah.
You don't care if they reject you. You don't care if they're.
But there was. I remember I saw. I can't even think of the name of the movie now, but like there was one day where I was like, yeah, I'm not driving right now, so I went and watched a movie next door to sober up over a couple, chug some water, sober up a little bit before going home. But that was kind of the mentality that we had to have, and not a lot of people do. Not a lot of people lock themselves in an office, whether you're drinking or not. Not a lot of people lock themselves in an office.
It helps sometimes. Like having a whiskey or two helps with writing. Helps with ideation on some of the things we do. But like I really, I used to drink a lot in my military days, and and I drank a lot, when I went back to college.
Yeah.
For grad school. But like,
it hurts.
It's not even that, man. It's just like I'm generally a good drunk, but like I also every single time in my life where I've embarrassed myself, where I feel bad, even if other people are like, oh, you were just drunk or it wasn't a big deal. Every single time where I've embarrassed myself has involved alcohol.
Terrible feeling.
See,
like sober,
yeah,
I don't really make giant screw. Like I just like I'm a pretty even keeled guy.
Yeah.
But you know, you get drunk, you're in the wrong headspace, you're with the wrong friends.
Yeah.
Like you say stupid, you're mean spirited, or maybe you know, like I don't like to be there.
Yeah, that's kind of gotten that way for me too now. Is I'll buy a more expensive whiskey, so I won't drink a lot of it right out the gate. It'll sit in the cabinet for a while, pour a drink out or two every now and then. But yeah, it is definitely not like my Korea days.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like it's like a end of the day like relax thing. Like I'm writing or I'm reading, or at dinner with friends or something.
Yeah.
I'll have a few.
Yeah.
But not the second I'm like, you're getting chippy or you're starting to not care. Like I stop. Like, let's drink water.
Yeah, I haven't drank in years, but if I had to cold call, I might have to start drinking.
Dude,
cold calling takes that's a different beast. It takes a certain person to do that.
So, and here's the kicker. In Orange County, where we were when we opened Costa Mesa, 1 out of every 10 people is a real estate agent. And so they're getting called, they're getting mail, people are getting everything all the time. And we were in a totally different market than we've been in the last couple of years. We were in a market very similar to this one. Relatively higher interest rates, more of a buyer's. We're not completely in a buyer's market right now because of interest rates and inventory still low, but listings sat on the market for 4 months, and that was normal. You know, no one was really getting upset, but buyers had choices. Buyers were going in and getting 20, 30 grand off a house just because the seller wanted to be done. But we would be calling people. I can't tell you how many times called scum of the earth, cussed at, told to go get a real job, you know. And that might be your first call of the day. Yeah. And you just gotta, you know, all right, on to the next one.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
You know,
I was just checking in.
Yeah. Clean your camper. Yeah. It's very interesting. So like the level of competition there is super high, which I'm very thankful for, because as I moved to other markets, there was nothing. That Orange County, to give you an example, Orange County, California has 4 times as many real estate agents in that county as the entire state of Georgia has.
Wow.
In total. So like coming to Georgia.
Well, I guess because you only have to sell one house if it's the right house.
But then again, really, no. I mean, our apartment was a 1-bedroom, 800 square foot apartment. It was $1,800 a month. You know.
Yeah, but if you sell a $20 million house, you know.
Right, but that level, there's not a lot. There wasn't a lot of that going on, and I hadn't broken into that quite yet. But we were, you know, we would sell million. We represented the buyer who picked up the beach house for the basis of Mike Dirt from Green Day. And that was a great win. That was a great deal. We made a lot of money on that one. But it's wild the way pricing works. So this was the 3rd house back from the sand of the beach in Newport Beach. The one next to it.
So it wasn't on the ocean.
No. It was 50 yards back.
Would you still call that a beach house?
Yes.
To me, it's a beach house if it's on the ocean. If it's not on the ocean, it's not a beach house.
No, if
it's a beach adjacent.
If it's 50 yards, not even. I think it was like 50 feet.
Mike Dirnt's baseline on Longview.
The second house in would be, so we sold that one for 3. The next one would be 8, and the one on the beach is 15. Like, and they're
million?
Yeah. And there's 20 feet up between each house. That's it.
Okay.
So, but we had a really good time with that.
Ken Brenneman just walked in. He was a guest on this show only 2 days ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Legendary.
Legendary.
It's the stuff of legends.
Legendary Ken Brenneman. You guys need to meet.
Okay.
He's got a meeting he's about to start.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's okay. No, right there. Thank you so much, though. That's Teresa. Teresa brought me a cappuccino, which is
Hey, Teresa.
nicer than anything that Dan's ever done.
Oh, 100%.
Anyway, you were.
Yeah, I brought the donuts this morning.
You did. Steve brought donuts if anybody that just arrived in the background wants any.
My stomach's just now not hurting anymore from my first round, so I'll be going
You're going
back
for round 2. They're really good donuts.
Delicious.
But it's real estate there is weird because it's so competitive, and where we opened in Costa Mesa, there was no other big franchise in that town. And I mean, we're talking about high density towns that there was offices that bordered it and stuff like that, but we were the first big mega franchise to open in there. And every time I come here, somebody gets shot. We're just gonna roll with it, though. Yeah.
We're gonna roll with it. It's been mostly quiet.
It adds character.
Yeah, it's Durham.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
It's continuity from the first one.
That's right. That's right.
But so we reached out to Torelli Realty. And
some nice Italian boys.
Valerie Torelli.
Nice Italian lady.
Yeah.
They're mean. Italian women are mean.
I'm going to tell you. So we reached out because we're like, hey, we're opening up this office. We're going to grow quickly. Our agents are going to do business with yours. Like, it's going to happen. So let's sit down. Let's have lunch. Let's talk and just get to know each other. And who the do you think you are? I'm about to get on a plane to Europe. When's the last time you were in Italy? Like, just cussed us up and down and hung up on us.
She agreed to get lunch, but she hid a gun in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. So
she took the cannoli.
So me and my partner kind of like looked at each other because we're stunned. We're like, oh, okay, because all the other conversations we had,
it's like that.
Yeah, we're like, okay. So there's target number 1 because we can break down. We can see where everyone's past sales have been. It's tracked across public records. We use it as a metrics for recruiting, so I can see where all of her agents have been, where they have done, and what we found out when we started talking to her past clients. Because one thing that agents are really bad at is following up with their past clients. Like a big chunk of my business was people who had bought a house 3 to 5 years ago, and I knew statistically they were going to start looking to move, whether it's downsize, move for a job, whatever. So I would start reaching out to those, and the agent that helped them buy it, they might have heard from once or twice within the first year, but then they've heard nothing from them since because the way they see it is, I got my check. They're not going to do anything again anytime soon. And they're so busy doing everything else that they fall off the radar. So we went in behind her and talked to all of her clients, and everyone had, everyone kind of had the same opinion of her. And when we reached out to other brokerages and things like that.
What was that opinion?
A bit of a bully, which based on the phone call that we got. Yeah, I could see that. And so when we
Italian women.
Yeah. So when we when we opened our office, we went and reached out to a bunch of smaller brokerages, people that it was mom and pop shops. They might have 6 agents, they might have 8. And we kind of gave them like, hey, this is where we're going for. And our goal is to do, this and take her business. And a bunch of them folded up their own individual brokerage and came under us as a team. And financially, it made sense for them, too, because they no longer had to pay for their own insurance. They no longer had their own brick-and-mortar offices if they didn't want to. So their expenses went to almost nothing. But they still had their book of business. They're still neighborhoods. They're still, nothing really changed for them. They could still call their team, Dingleberry Realty, powered by Keller Williams. Was
there a Dingleberry
Realty?
No. You know what's funny is when I was in elementary school.
I just want Dan's talking, so that's good.
Yes, when I was in elementary school, you're gonna regret me talking, but when I was in elementary school,
Are you about to tell a Dingleberry story?
We thought the Dingleberry was the funniest word ever. We created this thing called the Dingleberry Dictionary when I was in 5th grade, and it was like types of poop, and it had their names of types of poop. It had other words too, but anyways, listen to this. So we would only allow certain people to be part of the Dingleberry Dictionary, and this one guy, Scott, really wanted to be part of it, and we finally let him be secretary of the Dingleberry Dictionary. And one night his mom was like going through his homework, and she found like people were like wondering at school like what does this word mean, because like we'd say it and stuff. They'd be like, what does huckleberry mean, and so Scott was our secretary, so he kept the Dingleberry Dictionary. His mom found it and apparently I guess went to the teacher, and the teacher like called our parents and like were like, the boys have this thing called the Dingleberry Dictionary, and like they're passing it around school and stuff, and we're like, no, we're not. We won't let anyone see that. You know, my parents thought it was the funniest thing ever, but they tried to get us in trouble for the Dingleberry Dictionary. It's absurd. Scott got grounded.
I'm gonna make sure.
And he couldn't be the secretary anymore.
You're right. It doesn't seem like you're over this.
No, he's not, dude.
I'm just upset.
Did you get the dictionary back?
No.
You know what? I don't know. It's I think it's in a museum somewhere.
Scott's got it.
Scott's
got it under his bed.
Scott started his own thing.
Yeah, Scott's still grounded. He's 36 now.
Well,
I'm gonna make sure that part goes in my demo reel.
You know, it's like this is like we want Dan to, you know,
Space Jam was a floater.
But then like that's the contribution.
Space Jam was a floater.
He's still happy. He's still proud of his. He's still proud of this.
The Dingleberry Dictionary,
this
baby.
Is a
Go get a
grown,
donut, man.
This is a grown adult man.
Dan's got to go get a donut.
Dingleberry Dictionary. It was funny. Still is. Maybe I should restart it. You guys want to be in it?
No. You can start it as an online thing now.
Okay.
It's a digital asset that you can start a workshop for it and sell it. You know, discount it from $10,000 to $97,000.
Did you take Valerie out?
We took, in 6 months, we grew our office to like 66 agents, and we took 25% of the market share, which is a significant amount, and a lot of it was hers. And we marketed.
Does she still exist?
I think so. I don't worry about her anymore. But you know, it got to the point where we were sending marketing and mailers and stuff. Like, we dumped money into her neighborhood and the neighborhood that she lived in. And every piece of marketing we sent out was sent to the board to check for violations. And like, only one time did we have a violation, and it was a minor thing, so they didn't even do anything to us. But it got to the point where they had to like be like, hey, quit calling us, quit sending us stuff, because they're within, you know, we had an attorney, like, we know what we're doing. We pay attention to the law.
Yeah.
So
what would be a violation?
Like, I'll tell you what we got busted on was we were asking for a referral. So if they weren't looking at moving, but they knew someone who was, we were asking for a referral. And if it closed for over $1 million, we had worked out a deal with a travel agency that we were going to send them on a weekend down to Mexico, because we were offering to pay them something over, I think if it's over a cash value of $500, that's what makes it a violation.
Got it.
Yep. So that was it. And all we did was we changed the language in it, and we made it so that, but we can do that to people that do work with us. We just can't ask for a referral from people who don't work with us.
Got it.
So we just changed the language in it and moved on with our lives and kept rolling. And we did that for a while. We sold a few properties in there. And some of the places that we went to were ridiculous, man. We went into one where the HOA fee's $12,000 a month. At the golf course that's in the neighborhood. Every other car was a Rolls Royce. Yeah. I mean, it was the house that we had our Christmas party at for our team. It was a client's house. It was a $12 million property. Like, yeah, it was wild times. But we did stuff over the top. You know, and that's why we were getting the business with these luxury properties. You know, when we would do like a exclusive broker open house with other luxury real estate agents, where we'd bring in and I'd go to, we actually had a Lamborghini dealership not far from us, and I'd go to them and be like, hey, bring a couple of your cars, set them up in the driveway, put one in the garage, put, you know, whatever, put your information in it, and if you get a sale out of it, to, you know, go for it, you know. But it was just kind of those little add value things, and we ended up selling one house with a Ferrari in the garage.
They just left the Ferrari.
They're like, yeah. They added like $150,000 onto the purchase price, so that the Ferrari would stay and transfer with it, and got the deal done.
Wow. Yeah.
So it was some wild and some crazy times, and I had always wanted to go back to Georgia, and I had met Jennifer at the time.
But she wasn't from Georgia.
No, she's from Huntington Beach.
So how did you get her to want to go to Georgia?
It wasn't.
You may not know this, but they're very different places.
They trust me. My in-laws were just out from Huntington Beach. Very different places. So she actually, one of the things that I really liked about her, she volunteered at a horse rescue that was inland in the Temecula area. And I would go and I'd do that with her and stuff. And the way that we met was a mutual friend of ours that was a lender that we both worked with told me, like, hey, I know you're on a team. There's this agent that's looking to make a move.
I remember this story.
Yeah. And so I called her on a Friday, and she was in the middle.
Impropriety is how your relationship started.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Go ahead. Tell the story. Tell everybody how you're a shady individual.
I'm so shady. 3 kids into it now. So shady. Improprietory. So I called her Friday. She's moving into an apartment. Her and her son, now my stepson, are moving into an apartment. So like she's like huffing on the phone, and I'm like, hey, I was told that you're looking at making a move. We're opening this office here. I'm looking for people on my team, and I'd like to meet with you and see if you'd be a good fit. You got time Monday? And she's like, yep, let me call you back. Calls me back, lets me know Monday works. So Monday she comes in basically for an interview. Like I'm sitting behind, and I asked because I checked everyone. I wanted to see what they knew. Are they willing to learn and absorb new information, or are they the kind of person that when you give them a little bit of criticism that shields up, guard up, like, no, I'm doing it right? And I know I can get that way sometimes, so I know how to see it. But she came in, she was willing to learn, she was excited, and she wanted to do it. So we started working together, and at the time, like there was nothing between us. There was nothing going on between us. But we learned more. We worked 100-hour weeks together.
Yeah.
We had other people on our team too. And she told me she volunteered at this horse rescue and growing up around horses and things like that. I wanted to go. So we went out to this horse rescue a few times, and then eventually just she invited the first time I stayed with her, I was stuck in an hour and a half of traffic to get back to the house, and I was like, I do not want to be in traffic. Does anybody got a couch I could crash on, whatever? And she's like, yeah, I got a bottle of rum, you can come. I get there. Wait, how much rum do you think was in there?
I don't know.
How much rum do you think was in there?
In the bottle?
Yep.
Like a few sips left.
Like enough to fill the cap, probably.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
that was it.
It was just a ploy.
Yeah. But I stayed on the couch. Nothing happened. But
I got a bottle of rum.
That's what it was. Yeah. And so from there we started hanging out more and more. I took her to meet some of my friends when we were out. Like we were out viewing a property in my hometown, and I was like, hey, my friends live right around the corner. Let's go hang out. And then one day she's like, yeah, my family's having a big party. You guys should come. I show up, like it's me, her uncle, her aunt, and Logan, her son. And that's it. And that's when I was first like,
wait a second.
I was like, because men are stupid when it comes to that stuff. We have no idea.
Yeah.
And we don't want to believe it either because we don't want to look like idiots.
Yeah.
And so it finally got to the point where I was finally like,
it's possible she likes me.
Yeah. And so I was finally like, is there something, here? So we ended up dating for probably 3 or 4 months, and like no one in the office had a clue. We took separate cars. We nothing. No one knew a thing. My business partner didn't know anything.
It was exciting.
It was, man. It was cool.
Sneaking around after hours.
Don't you got a dictionary to be working on, Dan?
Shouldn't you be focused on the Dingleberry dictionary right now?
I'm so glad you guys brought that back up. Keep going. Sorry, baby.
But and so my dad was getting married here in Georgia, or over in Georgia, and I reached. I asked her. I was like, hey, would you want to come to this with me? It's just, a quick weekend trip, go hang out and see. And she'd never been to Georgia before. And I told her too, I was like, I had gotten her into archery. She wanted to get into bow hunting. And we had been hunting a couple times in California, but hadn't gotten anything. And she wanted to come with me. So we went, I brought her to Georgia, and like she instantly fell in love because of the amount of trees everywhere.
The clay, the fire ants, all the beautiful things that Georgia has to offer.
Not all of Georgia is Fort Benning.
It is to me.
Yeah. But so I took her bow hunting, and we got into some wild hogs. She had a shot and missed at like this nice big buck, and she fell in love with it. And I had told her, I was like, eventually it's my plan to come back here. I from the beginning, I've always said I'm in real estate because of the money, flat out. I found that I liked it, and I found that I had passion for it. But I always said, look, once I make some money, I'm gonna exit. I'm gonna go. I don't want to live on 100% commission forever, and have to be chasing that, chasing the dollar.
Yeah. And
we were having the success we were having in Costa Mesa. I was well past that number already. But so we were like, in a couple of years, this is probably going to happen, 6 months later, I was out in Athens, Georgia, interviewing with a team leader there because I had talked to my partner, and I was looking at starting my own expansion team in Georgia. So I was going to fly back and forth between California and Georgia a couple times a month to coach and train and start building a team there so that when I got to Georgia,
you'd have a place.
I'd have somewhere to start. And so during that trip, we kind of looked at places. We looked at houses, and we drove past this like old decrepit farm, and it was for sale. I hopped the fence, did everything that real estate agents are not supposed to do. No one was living there, so I hopped the fence. I went and I checked it out, and I thought it was really cool. Got an appointment to actually go walk through it, and I remember I walked through it, and then it was like a 20-acre property, but it's in the middle of 13,000 acres of timber company owned land, so there's nothing out there. And I remember I walked through the house, walked around a couple times, looked at the bedroom, and I went out the back door, out the back gate, and I was gone for hours before I came back up because I was just exploring. Like, I'm a hunter. I wanted to go see, find sheds. I came back with like a deer skull, pig skull, all kinds of stuff. And I was like, oh, this place is really cool. But it's not going to be available in a couple years. Flew back to California. We talked about it. Wrote an offer on the place, and we bought it. So 2 to 3 years turned into 6 months, and sold out of my partnership and moved to Georgia, and pretty much left real estate completely to start a farm.
As people do from time to time.
As people do from time to time.
Now, starting a farm is one of those things that sounds like a good idea.
It is. Financially, it is not.
I mean, yeah, like farming is really hard.
If you want to start if you want to make $1 million.
As a guy that worked at corporate John Deere, I'm basically an expert at farming.
Basically an expert.
Not actually the land, tilling the land or anything, or raising animals, but looking at farms and selling tractors.
I have family, some relatives that are farmers in Eastern North Carolina, so I'm an expert as well.
So you're looking at 2 experts in farming.
That's
here.
excellent.
Yeah. And we help the North Carolina Ag.
Yes, I did some videos. I went to a farm to do a video.
We've been to several farms. So,
phenomenal.
if you have any questions.
Any way we can help.
If you have
your
any
expertise.
questions about farming.
No, I defer to your expertise on. I'm gonna let you talk on that.
All right, so you decide to give up the big pimpin' lifestyle and raise pigs or whatever.
No, we didn't do pigs.
I know. I was giving you the opening. That was like a segue.
Yeah, here was the dumbest thing that I did is I agreed to let her bring 4 of the rescue horses across the country, and I paid for it.
Well, I mean, like, you don't really get to say, like, you can't bring your horses.
But they weren't her horses. They were from the rescue.
Oh, okay. So you acquired these horses.
Yes.
That's tough.
And
horses are – so my daughter rides and my wife rides a little bit.
Yeah.
And we don't own a horse, thank God.
Don't.
No. Listen. You don't have to tell me this.
Yeah.
So, where they ride, there was like a horse that had, and I don't know anything about horses, but it had like some kind of a spur that was starting to grow out of its face. And the owner was like, I don't want to deal with this. I will give this to whoever wants it. And they come home one day and they're like, we're thinking about getting this horse. And I was like, oh my God, please.
That's so fast.
Please, I'm begging you. Because I can't, like, I can't tell my wife, like, you can't do anything. We don't have that relationship.
Yeah.
But it was more like, I'm on my hands and knees and I'm begging you not to bring this cost into our. Well, no, they're going to give it to us for free. We'll just have to pay for the everything.
Everything. I tell people when people ask, because at one point we had.
What's it cost? What does it cost to really, like, if you're really taking care of a horse, what does it cost a month or a year? Or
man, so so here's the crazy part. You can't say a set number because hay prices change. They are astronomical. And if you don't, you can buy cheap hay, it'll kill your horse. It'll kill your cows.
That's what I would do.
If you're not having your,
that would be my plan.
Yeah, your hay has to be.
I'd be like, hey, don't worry, I'll take care of the hay situation.
Your hay's got to, you got to have it tested. Yeah, got to have it tested.
Laced with aspartame and BPA.
Throw a little Crystal Light on it.
Just fucking
raspberry green tea.
I'm just drizzling Crystal Light all over it.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with the horses? I don't know. I've been giving them as much hay as possible.
Yeah, tasty hay.
But I mean, so you could be talking $100-$120 for a roll of hay, and that's
how long does that last?
Cheap. If you have one horse, it'll probably last a couple weeks. But like we had 6.
Okay, what about when a horse gets sick? What does that cost?
Too much.
How many thousands of dollars? What is the most you have spent on a horse in a day?
$7,000.
$7,000.
Yep.
On one horse.
And that was to have it put down.
Oh my God.
Yep.
That was to have it put down?
It was my
horse.
Do
that yourself.
It was my horse. No. No, you can't.
Can't you?
You can, but I'm telling you, it was my horse. It had been big.
Why does it cost $7,000 to put a horse down?
Well, so it was all the testing and everything that led up to it.
Oh, okay.
But
not to put it down.
Not to put it down.
Okay.
But
I was gonna say, bro, look, it's not like I want to go around shooting horses.
I got in the wrong business. Yeah.
If people are gonna pay me $7,000 a shot,
no,
I'm a horse putter down or whatever that. Come up with a term for it. Dingleberry dictionary boy. What do we call it? What do we call it? The guy that goes around and shoots horses for $7,000.
For years, if you were blind or visually impaired, it was extremely difficult to traverse the internet. Enter Clusive. Clusive is a skill-based trainer led by people with visual impairment. Put another way, it's literally the blind leading the blind to ensure that the visually impaired have a better life. Visit clusiv.org for more information today. That's clusive.org.
The $7,000
I'll get back
man.
to you. Yeah, I'll get back to you.
No, you got to do it now. This is the show.
Well,
execute.
Good pun.
I don't know. I'm on the spot. Horse murderer. I don't know. It's like the horse whisperer. I'm trying to make a play off that.
The permanent bridle.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Patent pending.
The iron.
I don't know.
Dan, come on, man. This is usually your thing.
I don't know. I don't know if we had a term for this in the Dingleberry dictionary.
I feel like you brought B- energy to this show.
I mean, I thought my energy about the Office Romance and the Dingleberry dictionary.
The Office Romance was probably your best energy that we've seen. Cam, what do you think?
I would agree.
Yeah. Hollywood's not here today. That's why you don't hear just loud yelling in the background.
Yeah. By the way, I gave him shit last night too because I was like, every time I'm here for a podcast, you're not here.
He's afraid of you.
I was
That's
like,
what it is.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, we traded plenty of cigars in between. So
he's on his way or is in Illinois.
Yeah,
apparently
he's in Illinois.
He just comes and goes as he pleases. I never know where he is.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Not very reliable.
I really don't know where he is.
Not very reliable
most of the time. All right, so you're now farming. What are you farming? What is your chief source of farm income?
So we started with chickens, so eggs.
Meat chickens? Or
we started with heritage breed egg layers first.
Imagine that I am not a chicken expert.
Yeah, so like it's.
I know it's a stretch, but.
I can't even think of the names of them now, but there are specific breeds of chicken that aren't factory farmed. They're not factory egg layers. They lay colored eggs like green.
I don't think
blue.
You can use that term.
They're eggs of color. EOC.
So what color are these eggs?
Every color you can think of. Blue, brown.
The same chickens
white.
are laying different colored eggs.
No, we had a bunch of different breeds. So we had the my wife loved. She had these black Somali ones, which are jet black chickens. Jet black, eyes are black, and even
so they wear little red berets.
No,
okay, it's too
bad. An equine Ushner.
That was close.
That's good. That's good. It's a little late. If you had just dropped that, I'd be like that was.
Check his phone. That was a Chat GPT response.
Did you Chat GPT that?
No, I didn't chat. I'm anti-AI. I've never used AI. I never will use AI. I looked up horse terms.
Sounds like a AI answer.
Yeah.
The equine Ushner. It's not bad.
But so we sold eggs, farm fresh eggs. We were getting the property ready for the horses to come.
How much do you get to like what were the most popular eggs? Like the blue ones? Did those sell like hotcakes?
We just sold. We didn't sell them by the color. We don't see color when it comes to eggs.
So like you'd open up a dozen eggs,
and there'd be green, blue, brown.
Oh, and people probably
white.
dug that.
Oh yeah.
Do they taste different?
Yes.
Oh, see, that's
the colors don't taste different. They taste
okay.
different than the ones you buy at the grocery store. Because the ones you buy at the grocery, so here's the big thing, right? The ones you buy at the grocery store, they have to be washed, they have to be treated, and like from the time they're laid,
which is weird
because they get to the grocery
because
store,
the washing and treating of it actually makes it so that you can't leave the eggs out.
Correct.
Because in Europe,
we don't.
Like my wife's English,
yeah.
and so she's like when we first started dating.
Mm-hmm.
Like she bought eggs and like put them out. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then like we looked it up because I was sure that eggs would go bad.
Yeah,
out.
no, the bloom on
we
them.
were both right. We just didn't realize the process was different.
Yeah.
The
bloom on them is what protects them, and when you wash them, you get rid of that bloom, and that's why you have to put them. Then you have to put them in the fridge, and they don't last as long. I mean, I had eggs. We had eggs that had been on our counter for like over a month, and were still great. No issues, no taste, no issues to them. And they were probably the same age as some of the ones that were in the grocery store. If we're honest, they're just very different. But we were selling, and this was pre-COVID, so we were selling them for, we were on the high end at $4 a dozen. But
how many dozens were you making a day?
I think at our highest, we weren't necessarily going for volume at that time. So like our highest was like 60 eggs a day.
60 eggs a day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this wasn't like this wasn't really paying the bills or anything.
No, nothing was paying the bills.
Nothing was paying the bills.
Nothing was paying the
You
bills.
just had
I was working so hard on the farm. I had gone out there, moved my license, activated my real estate license and everything, and had a full plan on like diving into real estate in the Athens
area. But you
area.
weren't doing any real estate.
But I couldn't. I was building fences.
How long did farming last?
About a little over 2 years. No, about 2 years. Trust me.
So 2 years of farming.
Yeah, and we went from we had chickens. Then she got goats, and she was.
Were you slaughtering the goats?
No, she was milking them. And she would make goat milk soap, but we would also sell the raw goat milk. People would give it to their pets. People would drink it themselves. Things like that.
You weren't doing like goat cheese or anything like that.
No, I didn't have the time for that. I had a sawmill, so I was cutting and milling.
Cutting goats in half.
No, cutting and milling on my own lumber.
Okay.
We got into meat chickens, and so then we were selling.
How were you doing the meat chickens? Did you have those things where you're like moving it on the grass?
The chicken tractors, yeah. We built like 5 different variations of those to see which one we liked the best. But it was really good because anywhere that we wanted the
explain that to people what it is.
Yeah. So what it is it's basically double the size of this table, and you could put 15, maybe 20 meat chickens in it. And they're only going to be in there for 8 weeks at the most. And every day you pick it up and move it the length of it. And they'll scratch. They eat bugs. They're eating it. You have their food and their water hanging in there, but they're eating. They're scratching. They're the chicken litter. Chicken crap is putting nutrients into the soil, so it makes your soil really healthy. But you're going out there and moving those every day. And we had about 5 of those that we were moving. So we were doing about 100 at a time to begin with.
People don't realize, and I didn't realize this, but meat chickens grow like exponentially, and their lives are insanely short because we've genetically engineered them to basically be completely worthless.
Well, and that's the whole like misconception about like we didn't genetically engineer. We didn't go into a lab and create them. What they did was,
I think there are some now that are definitely lab created.
Possibly, but the way it really came out to be is they took specific breeds, and like they took 100 different breeds to start, and they narrowed it down to what breeds they could cross and would get to full size, butcher size in 8 weeks. And any longer, they're probably gonna have a heart attack or they're not gonna walk.
Yeah, they just die.
They just die. So they did that.
But that is, it's old school genetic manipulation.
Right, but when when you say genetic engineering for a lot of stuff.
Do you think that there are not genetically engineered breeds? I think there absolutely
I do now. Yeah. Now I do, but when it started, and the ones that we would get were not that.
Yeah, but it's still insane to think like if one of these meat chickens lives longer than 12 weeks, it's just gonna die.
Yeah. Whereas our egg layers, they had three years of really good egg laying, and then they'd kind of slow down to year 5, but they would live much longer than that if you let them.
Now, would you slaughter the egg layers when they slow down?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you'd sell them for meat?
Or we kept it for ourselves. Yeah. Like our main goal with it was to try to be as self-sufficient as possible. Business was kind of the added to it because we realized that we were going poor very quickly. And so we had goats. We eventually got into turkeys, ducks. We got into ducks pretty quick. And
slaughtering the ducks or duck eggs?
Duck eggs, and then eventually slaughtering them too. But they take longer. We didn't have meat ducks. We had regular ducks. And I loved them. We had like 50 at one point that they didn't have a pen. They just wandered the property wherever they wanted to go. And we'd lose one here and there to coyotes and stuff like that.
They didn't fly away?
They can't. Most of them couldn't.
Ducks can't fly away?
Most domesticated breeds won't or can't. So like Pekings,
they can just kind of
white
flutter like a few feet off the ground or whatever.
They grow and they get so they
so
get
you didn't have
overweight.
like mallards.
No.
I don't know anything about duck farming.
No.
So what kind of ducks does one duck farm?
So we had Pekings. We had you asked me. Man, I'm trying to think of the names.
I mean, you're the farmer. Like I got to ask you farming questions.
It's been a couple of years now, man.
You've already erased it from your mind?
I try to with every drink.
All right,
no,
so
I'm
what made
kidding.
you stop farming? Since you know nothing about the animals that you farm.
No, that's not true. It was kind of mid-COVID. My daughter had just been born in April of 2020. Like we barely by a week we got the approval that I could even be in the delivery room, which they were going to have a hell of a time if they tried to keep me out of there. But I got out with back injuries. I got out with neck injuries and stuff, and so
it's tough farming.
It is, man, especially from the military.
See
I got
what I
out.
did
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
I made it sound like those injuries were from farming when I knew that they were actually from the military.
Yeah, because everybody gets out with a good back.
Cam, Dan hasn't said anything in a while.
Oh my God.
He's right now he's buying the URL for the Dingleberry Dictionary.
Dingleberrydictionary.com. Go there.
That's the sponsor for today.
Yeah. This episode is sponsored by DingleberryDictionary.com, Dan's new pet project.
But
look how happy he looks.
Yeah, he is.
I haven't thought about that in a long time.
You made his day.
Cam, buy that URL real quick so Dan can't have it. So
buy them all. Everything associated. Make it so the only one he can buy is .ai.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so it just got to the point where, and like my wife is tough. Like she was 8.5 months pregnant, helping me butcher chickens and fill orders for clients. You know, because where we were, the grocery stores didn't have meat in them really, even where we were, and so our demand went through the roof. So that, like we were making good money. We didn't change our prices or anything like that, but we were making good money. We were selling out on everything. We were selling out on beef from our cattle, but it got to the point where I realized that I was trading days in that instance. I was trading days to day of killing myself out working and everything like that. That later on, when my daughter was older, I wasn't going to be able to roughhouse. I wasn't going to be, in my head, I started getting to the point where like I'm trading time to work hard and kill myself out here. That I won't be able to be, physically active and be, spend time with my daughter. And it didn't help. I was probably 340 pounds at the time. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I could move 1,000-pound cattle. I was strong. I was fat, strong for sure. But it was, I just had to have that hard conversation with myself. Like, dude, this is, as much as I want to continue to do this, I would rather be around longer and spend more time with my daughter than this. Because that's, at the time I was like 50 years from now, I'm not going to give a shit about how many cows I had. I'm going to care more about whether or not I was able to be out there with her when she wanted to play soccer, whatever she wanted to do.
Yep.
And so I had the conversation with Jennifer, and I was like, hey, I think we need to start, looking at downsizing. Like 2 days later, a conversation starts with someone down the road who had bought so our property was part of a big tract of land that used to all be part of an original plantation that was actually burned during the Civil War, but the house was left up, and a developer had bought the house and kind of turned it into like an animal sanctuary. So she hated everything we were doing, but she was loaded out the ass with money. She comes by one day, like 2 days after we've had this conversation about downsizing, and she said, "Would you ever consider selling? I'm looking to buy, another house on this road. And there's only 4 houses on the road. Like, I'm looking at buying another property on this road for my mom to live in." And I was just kind of in that mood, like, yeah, for double what it was worth, probably. Okay, done. She's like, "I'll take the animals, the tractor, the equipment, everything." And so that was it. Like that, and that
like that, you weren't a farmer.
Just
anymore.
like that, I wasn't a farmer anymore. Like,
and then you went into the hardcore world of car wash ownership.
No, man, I got back into real estate.
I'm just joking.
Yeah,
I'm joking. You did own a car wash, though.
I did. That was.
Everybody says that car washes print money.
No,
they don't.
Okay, so they can't. But the way that I did, I ended up walking away with like a $40,000 loss on mine. But
that sucks, man. You've ruined my car wash.
Some of that had to, well, you can learn from mine, right? Some of that had to do with the information that I was given ahead of time about the state of it, what it would take to get it really back up and running, and then also just the local community
doesn't wash their car that often.
Or they do, but it's like they bring their tractor in there, and the bay is then just a foot of mud that I have to go and scrub out. And when I had changed the car wash, instead of $2 for 4 minutes, I changed it to $3 for 5 minutes. And like that made its way onto Facebook and social media of like outrage in this tiny little town. Like I'm not playing. The car wash had been closed for years, and I had to go in and replace like 80%. Like I'm telling you, my plumbing and electrical abilities shot through the roof.
Oh, you did it yourself?
Yeah. I didn't have a ton. I had enough money that I could have hired people, but I also needed to know it so that way if something went wrong, I wasn't calling somebody and paying $1,000 an hour for somebody to come do it.
I hate plumbing.
Yeah.
I can do things.
Yeah.
Like I have the skill to plumb.
Yeah.
It is my least favorite. Like I would rather do construction, electrical. I'd rather do any of the other things.
Yeah.
Something about like the water, everything's wet and gross and dirty and like all the time.
Yeah.
I loathe it.
That's how we know Nick was never a Navy SEAL.
I was not. I can swim.
Yeah.
I don't really love the idea of being drowned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I can swim for a long time. I'm very comfortable in the water.
Yeah.
Don't want to be drowned.
No.
It's
bad way to go.
What's that?
I said it'd be a bad way to go.
For sure.
Yeah. Not super excited about that. Also, like while I do have, a full head of hair, I don't have a luxurious wavy head of hair.
Yeah.
And that's a requirement of SEALs.
Yeah. You'd also have to written like 6 more books by now.
I also don't love myself enough. Like I'm more of a self-loathing person.
Yeah.
Like where I'm always like, man, like you really needed to be better.
Work harder.
Like, you should have done more. Whereas SEALs are just like, they look at themselves in the mirror and they're like, God damn, I'm a good-looking man. You know, like it's a different. Yeah, you could be a SEAL if you could like, swim or
I can't do any
do
of that
hard
stuff,
things.
but I have the vanity.
Yeah.
I've got the vanity down.
Hey, that's just as important though.
That's a big don't knock it. That's 60% of the job.
I've seen that SEAL team show. That's all it is, man.
Yeah. It's 60% vanity, 20%,
40%
swimming
DoD budget,
and I
actually just thought of I just remembered a word from the Dingleberry Dictionary.
Why don't you tell us the word?
It has nothing to do with poop, though.
Why don't you tell us the word?
I don't like it, and you're gonna ask me why does that mean that? Like, I don't know. I'm just telling you. I remembered alcohol meant fly honey, like a girl.
Well, I'll add one for you because since we're talking about Navy SEALs, in the Army, when one goes to the bathroom, you would say, "I have to go drop off a SEAL team."
There you go. All right. Yeah. So if it was a pretty girl in class, I'd be like, look at that alcohol over there, fly honey. I don't know why. I'm serious. I just remember alcohol
that's not even
fly.
good. That's not
I
even
know.
good.
We were in 5th grade.
Are your people independent contractors?
Unfortunately, Dan's an employee.
Like, I don't know. I told you, there's no rhyme or reason. There's no rhyme or reason to why any of this,
I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry that you're on. I'm sorry.
Just
that you're
remember,
on
though. Just remember, I'm not the one that's gonna be taking it in circles for hours and hours. Okay. Although Hollywood told me 3 hours is the record to beat since we beat it on.
We can't do.
We're not doing that.
We can't
We're
do
not
that.
doing that.
We can't do that. So you're back in real estate.
Yeah. We moved 180 miles away.
Still in Georgia?
Still in Georgia, to northwest Georgia, to just south of Rome, and honestly, while we were
all
doing
roads lead to Rome.
I called a few different Keller Williams agents over there, and like we had sold, and we made enough money on the sale and everything. I was like, hey, we're paying cash. This is the property I want. I've already seen it. Write the offer, do it. And like, there were people that I called them and was like, this is the offer. Write it. This is how I want it. Like, here's a check, basically, right? Mm-hmm. Not another word from them.
Nobody did anything?
Nobody did anything. And so I went and dealt with the listing agent directly. And that's what told me, though. But that's what told me, bro, you need to put your license back up because there is a gap here.
Oh, man.
And
there's nothing you enjoy more than a lack of competition.
Especially coming back from it, I was like, man, I don't know if I'll be rusty. And I was used to Orange County real estate. Like, I'm used to agents everywhere.
Yeah.
But instead, what this town had was 2 brokerages that are like 100 years old, a Keller Williams office, and pretty much that was it.
Did you go back to Keller Williams?
I did. And here's why. Like, I had looked at other brokerages and stuff like that, and there are cheaper companies out there too, but the education, the training, and the systems that they have in place that are really agent driven, but they also do a profit share program. If your market center exceeds its profit goals, 50% of the revenue of the profit is then redistributed back to the real estate agents that close deals during that time. So it's a good way, and you can also make money off of profit share based on people that you recruit and stuff like that too. So it's a decent way to set up like residuals.
Yeah.
And so I went back to Keller Williams, and I went into the office that like it was one of the top producing agents that was in there that like did not write the offer, didn't do the deal, nothing. And I knew who it was, but they didn't realize who I was. And so I just, I showed up, I paid for an office, my own individual office in there, and I'd go in there and I'd close my door, and like day 3, I had people like pulling me aside, like, who are you calling? What are you doing? Because I'd show up at 7:45 before anybody else is in there. I'd be in my office, lights on, music going, calling, and just banging out phone calls, trying to meet, because I knew no one in this neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So I did what I did when I started in Norco. I called every for sale by owner. I went through all the listings that had expired, and I went and found a way to try to get to them, or I wrote a handwritten note card to them, or some way of contact. And that's what I just buried myself back into it. Like full tilt. This is it. I spent thousands of dollars to get back into this. Like, we're doing this. And within a couple months, I had gotten to the point where I had enough business that I started a team again. And I caught, it's.
What does a team look like? I know, again,
yeah,
know nothing.
Yeah. So a team, just like in Costa Mesa, there was your team leader, or something, not a team leader, but like your team owner, basically. So me, and then you'll have agents that are underneath that they share. Typically it's a 50-50 split, but I was with my team, I usually ran a 70-30, where
so
if they close the deal, they get 70, I get 30. But I'm paying for all the marketing, I'm paying all the bills, I'm paying for all the programs. If they're sending out note cards, I'm paying for them. I'm paying for the office space we're in. Like, all the financial responsibilities really on me, but I'm also giving them deals too. So,
but you don't have to pay them any wage.
Nope.
Like, I gotcha.
Yeah, it's all 100% commission. The only person that I would pay is at one point for a while there, I got so busy that I did bring on a like executive assistant who was kind of.
You didn't try to marry her.
No, I was already married.
just checking. We know how this guy works.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I was already married.
Step 1, hire executive assistant. Step 2, crash on our couch.
Yeah.
Yep.
Step 3, spend years visiting her family.
Step 4,
Step 4
pretend to be interested in her horses.
Oh,
Step 5, close the deal.
Dude, you guys are putting way too much time into it. She and I like moved across the country like 6 months into dating.
Did you tell your new team that Rome wasn't built in a day?
Every day.
Has that been used at least once?
Every day.
Are you just saying that?
No.
You have used it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. We were going to be disappointed if you weren't. That was your first good question. That was good.
I'm getting better.
But so I've always believed that if you do the hard work, something will click. Whether it's
What's beeping? What's beeping? Oh, the coffee maker just shut off.
And so and that's what happened. I had a for sale by owner that I went hard after. I met the guy, and I had bought a tiny little camera that I could do 360-degree virtual tour photos, kind of like what you're seeing more popular now.
Yep.
I invested in buying one for myself, and so what I would do as just a freebie for the for sale by owners to get me in the door, to get me to meet them and show them that I'm providing some type of value. I would go there for free, and I would do it of the entire house, put the whole virtual thing together, and then give them the website and tell them that they can send people to it, link to it, whatever. And so I go and I meet this guy, and I'm talking to him, and I'm explaining to him what I do. I'm explaining to him how I'm different and that I believe in social media marketing because, like, in this town, everything is old school.
Yeah.
Like, newspapers were still used for advertising listings, and we were in a fast market in COVID where, like, houses weren't sitting on the market for 7 days. So how's it going to make it in the paper? It's already sold.
Yep.
And so through all of that, I showed it. Like, I literally created an ad for him on Facebook in the kitchen of the property and showed him, like, this is how I do it. And this is how I build an audience, and this is our potential audience size. And I explained to him, I said, as much as Rome is an amazing little town, in COVID, everyone's moving away from Atlanta. They don't have to go into the office anymore. They don't have to commute an hour anymore. Everybody's going remote. So now they're realizing they could sell their $500,000 3-bedroom home in Kennesaw and spend the same amount of money on a estate in Rome, and that's what they were doing. So all of our advertising was targeted to those people that were looking at making the transition, and no one else was doing that.
Yeah.
And we started doing a lot of video content too, which, again, YouTube ads. No one was running a YouTube ad. My cost per click on YouTube in Rome was like a penny. So I mean, I was getting leads for cheap. I was building my database. I was creating content and really, leveraging ways of now you can send video emails. So it's not just a cold email going out. We would record a quick personalized video for this person and send it to them. And the guy was kind of blown away by it. But he told me, he said, these guys are coming from North Carolina. I already talked to them before I talked to you. If they don't buy it, I'll sign the listing with you. They came and bought it. But he and we had clicked talking about hunting and duck hunting and things like that. And so a couple of times go by. I ask him, I'm like, hey, what's good? Where's a good spot to hunt around here? I don't have private land anymore. So, looking for public land, or if you know of a lease that's, that's looking to come up. A couple weeks later, I get a phone call from him, and he's like, hey, my dad and I, we own a few properties that haven't, no one's really been able to sell in the last couple of years, and we're really kind of just, if I'm being frank, like we're getting tired of their shit because they're not moving them. Will you meet me at this address and we'll talk about them? Yeah, absolutely. Like that, it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Over the next 12 months, over the next 2 years, I made about $300,000 working with them. I sold a $2.5 million farm for them that sat for years without selling. I took a commercial real estate listing for them that had been on the market for 3 years with the same guy who was a family friend that the dad had gone to high school with them. And they really, it was just not anyone being innovative. They weren't.
It's the weirdest thing to me. This drives me nuts. And a big part of Diesel Jack Media is we start with the premise that we don't have the answer.
Mm-hmm.
If something isn't working, and if we do something and something isn't working, we don't go, man, I don't know what's going on. Like, this usually works.
Yeah.
Like, or just kind of like wait it out. Like, no, you change things.
Right.
You try something else.
Yeah.
You iterate.
Yeah.
You keep working until, like, it would drive me insane if somebody hired me to sell a property.
Yeah.
And I couldn't sell the property. And I'm not a realtor and I don't want to be. But like even like right now, if you were like, Nick, you're a realtor for the next month, you have to sell, like I would sell that property.
Yeah.
I don't know how yet because I know nothing about realty, but like I'd at least be trying everything under the sun to do it.
Well, and
so it's weird to me when these people make a living doing this and they're just fine with.
So, and that's where complacency comes in, you know, like we were talking about earlier with the entrepreneurship side of things. Like people get into this business. They've been doing it for 20, 30 years. They're, you know, the average age of a real estate agent is 60 something years old. They're selling, you know, their neighbor's kid's house. Their business is coming from referral only at this point. They're not. And
they're not hunting for business.
They're not hunting.
They don't have aspirations to grow it.
It shows up.
Yeah.
And so they're going to continue to do what they're doing.
That makes sense.
And so it's really, to me, it's about complacency. And that's why I've gone to 3 very different markets in real estate across this country. And every single time I have implemented the same strategy. I have done the same thing. I have put the same energy. And
start by taking out the Italians. Look, we're a scrappy bunch. I would do the same thing.
And
especially in Rome,
yeah.
You know, where like, you know, we get our power.
They actually have in Rome, Georgia, there is a Capitoline Wolf statue that was given to them by Mussolini that is on display outside of Town Hall.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it's I can go anywhere. I could go. And this is egotistical of me to say this, but I can go anywhere in this country. You give me 6 months to start completely over with a 0 budget, or, you know, if you want to be nice, $1,000. I will be one of the top paid real estate agents in that market area within 6 to 12 months. I'll find what people are doing.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
And it's, you know, it really comes down to complacency. There was, you know, that one property. They were told, so we sold a cabin on 10 acres that they had been told multiple times that in order for it to sell, it needed to be torn down. I marketed it on social media. It was shown 48 times in the first 72 hours, and we sold it for $50,000 more than I listed it for without spending a penny on it. Like, and so when that clicked and that happened for them, no one else got any of their business. They brought me into the fold. They showed me what their family was really wanting to do. They brought me into we eventually sold a $5 million office building for them. Like it was one of those things where no one, no matter what kind of personal relationship they had with them, no one was taking that business from me. And it felt really good to have those people's trust and faith, because I'm one of those people that even now, you know, when I have wins, when I talk about the things that I've done, I always still feel less than, if I'm 100% honest. Like I battle with self-consciousness daily, you know, and it's part of it. I think part of it is I measure myself against people, and
can't do that.
You can't do but that. If I'm honest, man, I look at the stuff that you've accomplished and that you've done, and I understand, you know,
but look at some of my friends.
Yeah.
Right. Like you've got guys like Tim Kennedy, right? You know, who, like, you know, he's now running. Like when I met him, you know, he was a soldier that was still in the military.
Yeah.
Like now he's running millions of dollars of business.
Yeah.
Right? You got guys like Evan Hafer and Jared Taylor, who are, you know, Black Rifle Coffee is a billion dollar publicly traded. Like I can go on and on. Like my friends and acquaintances, like they have done incredible things.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you start going, like there's always somebody that's done more stuff. For sure. Like you just got to play like whatever your hand is, you play it.
Yeah.
You play it to the best of your ability. You don't worry about anything else.
Yeah. And that's kind of what have grappled with for the longest time, because even like I was telling you earlier, like I'm in the middle of a proposal to go speak at a real estate conference in Europe.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the other speakers, and I'm like, man, you know, I question myself. I'm like, am I really qualified to talk about this? But it's like, yes, yeah, you have run multi-million-dollar offices. You have recruited people that should not have been recruited, that, you know, then made the office millions of dollars, and have been able to travel. But for me to say those things to myself, I also feel like I'm being egotistical and bragging.
Yeah. So like it's weird. I don't think of myself in like like a super, like, I truly don't, I don't look at myself and say like, oh, you're a badass.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that. Like I have a very healthy, like, you know, we're regular people, and we have, you know, been consistent in certain paths, and because of that, we have excelled in an area.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't love myself the way, you know, people are like, oh, you should love yourself. Like, I'm not sure if that's true or not. Like,
yeah.
Like, I try to be a good person.
Yeah.
That's it. But
Yeah.
like, when it comes to like the things that I'm good at, like, if you ask me to speak, like, I do not think I'm not gonna be able to hang with anybody in the room. Like,
Right.
I assume that I will be, you know, one of the best.
Yeah.
Because I've got a lot of reps in it. Like, I'm confident
Yeah.
in that. I'm not saying, like, listen, you know, certain people show up, they're gonna crush it, you know, but like, I'm not gonna embarrass myself.
Right.
You know, so the areas where I've put time, I am very confident in going into those things, and I don't feel bad about that. Like,
yeah.
You want me to write something, I feel like I'm going to crush it. You want me to give a speech, I feel like I'm going to crush it. That being said, you know, going back to like, who are your friends, right? And
yeah.
I won't go as like Jack Carr is an acquaintance that I think very highly of. I can't call him a friend because it's not like we hang or anything.
Right.
But, you know, he came on to executive produce the documentary Send Me.
Yeah.
Lent his name to it, you know, because he's got a good relationship with Amazon that
Yeah.
helped us, you know, with that Amazon relationship. Well, when I read his books, you know, you know, he is at another level.
Yeah.
There are things that I learn from reading his books, and it's not like his style is not my style, and I don't want his style, right? Like, it's his.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I think about is you can tell when you read his books how much research has gone, even though it's fiction, has gone into making that fiction like feel lifelike.
Yeah.
So what I think about when I see excellence is not, I'm not as good as this person.
Right.
I think, and even though I acknowledge when it's true, right? I think, what makes them excellent?
Yeah.
What is it that I can learn from this person and add it to what I already do well? I don't want to copy them.
Right. No.
You know,
You
I
can't.
in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I have my style of writing, and I'm riding that out. But, you know, could I, prior to writing this, should I be reading 4 or 5 books on this topic and really like start identifying some notes that will then in turn
Make it better.
Well, because it's, you know, and I know we're off topic a little bit, but I don't think we are, right? When you have mastery of something, it comes easily. The words come easily. The instruction comes easily. You are such a great teacher for your team because you are a master in that world. Like, you know how to do it. And I suspect you're a better teacher now than you were
Oh, for sure.
6 years ago,
For
8
sure.
years ago, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, last night, like we teach, we have a private jiu-jitsu club that we started.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of you know, middle-aged dudes, and you know, our not just dudes. I mean, like some great women as well. But I don't like to call women middle-aged. But we're all in that.
Right.
We're all in that
season of life,
late 30s to early 50s kind
Yeah.
of range.
Yeah.
That started. We just basically took a warehouse and we're like, how do we make jiu-jitsu like for us instead of like this hardcore? So we've got mats, pool tables, and kegerators, and a couple of arcade games from the 80s.
Yeah.
So it's a private club. Like, you got to get invited.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because we don't want like hardcore, like outsiders that are like, you know. But we run a wrestling class, you know, on Tuesday and Thursday night, and it's, you know, middle school kids from 4:30 to 6, and then high school kids and adults from 6 to 7:30.
Yeah.
And, you know, last night, like, it's growing. It's starting to become a big thing. Last night we had, you know, 2 athletes that are like UNC athletes.
Okay.
Like, you know, like, that came and helped coach.
Yeah.
And
and then another guy that was that actually works here, Alex Pokey, that was a 2-time Greco state champ.
Mm-hmm.
But like as we're teaching these kids, like all of these guys, they're a huge asset in the room. But one of the things that like occurs to me is that I have so many reps coaching that even though like this other guy, Nick, I mean, he's 10 times the wrestler that I ever was.
Yeah.
But he has not yet
figured out how to articulate it.
He's a really good coach.
Right.
But like I've had to wrestle with these problems already.
Yeah.
Where it's like, how do you get a kid to understand what's in your head here? Because the moves look complicated
right.
to the uninitiated.
Right.
Right. And so, so last night, after practice, we were talking about the ideas of cues, like, and how did I learn the idea of cues?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like from lots of different people, right? So, Tim Kennedy, when he teaches jiu-jitsu and he's showing something complicated, he snaps his finger on the hand that is doing something, which makes all the students
stare at it.
I did not do that when I coached before, but training with him, watching him teach, I picked that up, right? So then, I also started thinking like, man, when a move is complicated, what is the most important part?
Right.
And so, it's like I started changing, instead of like, hey, trap this arm, start thinking, pull the elbow into your hip bone, hold it there. Then then drive your shoulder to the mat, simplifying the process. This is like years and years of like, I've coached wrestling basically since like, I don't know, like 99.
Yeah.
I've coached in some form or fashion, like a long time.
Yeah.
But there's like reps, right? So I'm in a room with a bunch of experts, at least one of which is a much better wrestler than me, probably more,
Yeah.
But when it comes to coaching, like I am very comfortable.
Yeah.
Because I do have mastery in that area. And so like I think there's a difference between, like, you got to have confidence in the things that you're good at, but at the same time be open.
Yeah.
And I think you have that. And I'm not trying to articulate it for you.
No, you're good.
But I think there's a difference between not believing in yourself, which I don't think you have at all. Like, I think you believe you can do anything. I do believe that about you. But not necessarily thinking you have all the answers, which is okay.
Yeah.
So like, going back to those coaches, there's a lot I can learn about wrestling from this other Nick and from Pokey, and they all have things that they're great at.
Yeah.
I think I can help them become better coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's definitely it. Because I mean, I've been back out of real estate for a year and a half now, and I still get calls daily from people that were on my team and people that weren't on my team asking for advice. They're in the middle of a contract negotiation they need help with and stuff like that. And it's very easy to fall back. I just open a door in my brain and it's all there, and I'm able to talk them through it and work through that with them.
Is your advice ever shoot the hostage?
No. Damn. Nope.
We've crossed 2 hours, gentlemen.
We're going to have to wrap this up then. I see that you've brought the hat onto the table.
I just don't want Ken Brenneman to wrestle me to the ground.
Yeah. Well, he's on a meeting right now, so we're okay with that. But we're not going to make it to 3 hours. We're not doing it.
I'm not
trying
to.
All right. So
I'm driving back today.
So what are you up to now?
So now it's been a big push on my professional speaking.
Cool.
So traveling, coaching.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's been a couple months.
What are you speaking about?
So really, I'm trying to kind of help more young entrepreneurs who are in the same position I was in when I started. But also to kind of give people a gut check.
There are that many young entrepreneurs living in campers on their mom's property?
I wouldn't be surprised, but also, to kind of help people get a gut check and not be drawn to the allure of social media entrepreneurship.
I hate it
because it's not Bugattis and Instagram models everywhere. It's kind of what you and I have talked about. When we talk about off camera stuff, like it's long days, long nights, and family sacrifices too.
There's two different I think a lot of people don't really want to be entrepreneurs. They want to be influencers.
Yes.
I think if it's like with elementary school or like middle school, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be cool for a living.
Yeah.
Like it's.
Whereas I accepted a long time ago that I'm not cool and I'll never be cool.
I'm going to be cool for a living, or I'm going to be brave for a living.
or they legitimately want to be a YouTuber, but they don't realize
that's what they want.
That really is. I mean, it is 8-hour days of creating content that in the beginning,
no one's going to care about.
And your first 100 videos are going to be trash.
They're going to be trash.
Right. But you got to work through it. And I think it's that, you go back to that whole 10,000 hours thing, right? Mm-hmm. You're not an expert unless you put 10,000 hours in. There's so many people that can articulate what they think is a good idea that they want to start a business doing, but don't really understand what it's really going to take. They think that they're going to be able to put a couple grand into it and do a little bit of advertising, a little bit of marketing, that they don't really know anything about what it's like, and expect it to take off or do its own thing, you know?
Yep.
And so that's some of the things I talk about. And I also talk about burnout too, cause I get burnout. The whole reason I stepped away from real estate was my wife and we were struggling to have a baby. And that took a lot out of us. But as soon as I quit, doing that and, relax and slow things down and focus on spending more time with them, I just had a daughter born June 28th. Like it's about that balance. And so, that's what I travel and speak about now is finding that balance. But also when you do get burned out, how do you reignite that same level that you had when you were first excited to get started?
All right, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a topic. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think about it.
Okay.
And then you're going to give us a 1 to 2 minute speech about it. Are you ready?
Man, it better not be the Dingleberry Dictionary.
I'll give you an hour on that.
All right, we'll let Dan pick the topic. Dan, what's the topic he's going to speak about?
What to do if you encounter a grizzly bear in the wild.
All right. You've got 30 seconds.
Grizzly bears in the wild. You can, whatever
You've got 30 seconds to think about this. Prepare your speech. 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, so let's talk about running into a grizzly bear in the wild. And it's something I've done, especially bow hunting in the backcountry. First of all, you're not going to scare a grizzly bear by getting bigger. You can try talking to it, you can try yelling at it, but they don't operate the same as black bears. Where I bear hunt in Idaho, they're still smaller than the ones in Alaska and much smaller than the ones in Kodiak, and you're not chasing it off. It's trying to figure out whether or not you're a threat to it or if it's going to eat you. That's it. And so if it really starts coming at you, and if it charges, and if you stay still and hope that it's a false charge. But if it's not a false charge, like get down, keep your pack over your back, try to cover your vitals, but just know that you're probably not coming back off that mountain. Bear spray is great, but it's not 100%. Bullets definitely aren't 100%, but it's better than nothing. And when you're out there, you just got to really be aware and pay attention to what's going on around you. And especially if you're packing out, an elk or packing out a fresh kill or something you just hunted, it's, you just got to really be paying attention, but you may not always see it coming. So, if it really wants you, there's not much you can do. You're not going to outrun it. But there are situations where you can scare it off, or at least just back off and hopefully get away.
Well done.
How'd he do?
I think I know how to deal with a grizzly bear now.
Yeah, you just die.
Yeah,
that's what I got out of that. What I got out of that is
the truth of the matter is, like, if you spook one with cubs, like if you spook a sow with cubs, like, hope you said I love you to everybody, because you're fucked. If you're
How many bullets do you think it would take to stop
Dude, so that's the thing. The guns that are big enough, they're revolvers. You know, you're talking about 500 Smith & Wesson, 44 mag, like you're all of them. And because also as big as they are, that head is sloped. They'll ricochet. They'll bounce. I usually carry a 40 or like I actually now I have can't think of it now, an FN in a 45X. So I carry 16 45 rounds with me, but I also know that if it comes down to like a grizzly bear, I have a long knife too. I told my wife, I was like, look, any of these hunts that I go on, like if it comes down to me and a grizzly bear, like I'm not dying like a bitch. Like you will find both of us dead there, and I want you to sell both of us to Cabela's and have us taxidermied over the door. You know, man's immortal struggle with nature.
There you go. Beautiful.
You're not gonna
artistic.
Well, did you hear the story of those two wrestlers, the two college wrestlers? The bear attacked one of them. The other guy, jumped on his back and essentially tried to like RNC it.
Yeah.
And then like that guy is the one that got messed up more because the bear, like spun around on it. Because people don't realize these things are agile.
Oh yeah.
Even though they're enormous.
Yeah. They are fast and they're quiet.
Yeah.
They are quiet. I can't tell you, like, I just did bear hunt in Canada in May, and we didn't run any grizzlies, but like the black bears. Yeah. The first thing I knew, and I mean this bear was 30 yards away. First thing I knew was because I saw black come out of the tree line, and that's it. I didn't hear anything. I just happened to see the black fur head poke out of the tree line. Yeah. And then it came in and out a bunch before it finally came in, and I was able to get a shot on it. Yeah. But like they can be as quiet as they want to be.
And the thing is, like, people have this false sense of security with them because of the fuzziness.
Yeah, they've been anthropomorphized for sure.
But if you actually we've all seen, I think, the picture of like the shaved grizzly bear. They had like a disease.
Oh yeah,
where all
mange. Yeah,
they look like rats. Yeah. They're like giant evil rats.
Yeah.
And so when you look at it like that, you're like, oh.
Yeah. Well, and that's what people don't realize. Like 100% of bears are 100% cannibals. Like if a male comes in and tries to kill, and a sow has cubs, it's going to kill the cubs to try to get her back into heat. And if it kills one of the cubs, but the sow runs it off, she will eat that cub. They're not families. At a year and a half, she's kicking those cubs off for her survival. Yeah. Like it's not, and if she runs into them in a couple of years,
she'll fight them.
It's a fight. Yeah. It's not as much as people think like, oh, if we leave them alone and don't hunt them, they're going to die peacefully in their cage. Like, no.
Nothing in nature dies peacefully.
Nothing.
It's the luckiest thing in the world, and that's for even like lions and stuff. Like if they die peacefully, they are lucky.
I can't tell you how much I hate zoos now. I grew up loving them. I hate them with such a passion.
How come?
They are not the same animals.
No,
it's a lie to people.
Oh yeah,
because like.
But you get to see them though. There is value in.
So in that, yes, but like the San Diego Zoo, for example, has an exhibit with caribou in it. Mm-hmm. Caribou migrate hundreds, if not thousands, of miles every year. They've got maybe a quarter acre to a half acre enclosure. It's the same. It's the same where I just took the kids to Disney World last year, and we did the safari tour, and the lions were out, and they were roaring. And then I saw that the truck with their food was coming. And so everyone's like, oh, they're roaring. I was like, no, that's a big house cat that knows it's feeding time. Yeah. Like when they start to have those mannerisms, it is not, it really cheapens it. And so it gives people, like you were saying, a false sense of what these animals are really like. Like it's not the polar bear you see in the aquarium.
Yeah, that thing, it will hunt you.
It will hunt you. It will kill you, and
it'll hunt you for hundreds of miles.
Yeah, they can smell. What is it? Seals through
the ice.
3 feet of ice.
Yeah,
we've got 10 minutes on this card, by the way.
We're gonna wrap it up right now. We're gonna do this. All right, pass the hat. The fast question round. Now, this is a great segue.
Okay.
What is the toughest animal you think you could defeat in hand-to-hand combat?
Toughest animal
as an expert in animal husbandry, hunting, and all kinds of other things.
That's a tough one, actually.
I know, you got to give me an answer.
If I'm talking about like a full-grown adult, if I could figure out how to get my hands on it, I would say like a small elk cow or some type of deer.
A small elk cow.
Yeah, or some
That's
some
tough.
kind of
That's
deer.
a tough.
Yeah.
Mine is adolescent black bear.
Dude, I don't think so.
Adolescent?
I don't think so. How old are we talking about? Like 2 years old?
No, whatever you think like is the equivalent of like teenager.
Oh, like 5 or 6 years old. That's like a 300-pound, 400-pound bear, dude.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take that.
No, maybe here in North Carolina.
I'm
not even in North Carolina.
I'm thinking like a 200.
That's like a 2-year-old bear. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
Maybe, but even then, it's gonna jack you up.
Oh, I'm gonna be screwed up.
And you might still die afterwards. But it's Wait, barehanded or with like a knife?
Just these right here.
Oh no.
All right. What fictional character do you think you're most like?
Oh man,
I'm taking that 200-pound bear.
fictional character that I'm most like.
These have to be quick.
Dude, I don't know.
You can't take like hours to answer these questions.
Yeah, well, if I could, Geralt of Rivia. I slay monsters, bro.
All right. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Friends in Low Places.
Give me 10 seconds of it.
Ooh. Blame it all on my roots. I showed up in boots and ruined your black tie affair.
The last one to know.
The last one to show. I was the last one you thought you'd see there.
And I saw the surprise and the fear in his eyes as I took your glass of champagne.
And I said,
you but you'll never hear me complain, 'cause I got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away. And I'll be okay. Hit it, Dan. Big on social graces, think I'll slip on down to the oasis, 'cause I've got friends in low places. All right. That was mediocre, but we did it. What has been your favorite book in the last 6 months?
Ooh, favorite book in the last 6 months. It's a quartet of books. Bernard Cornwell wrote it on Wellington and Napoleon on their lives.
What's it called?
The Young Guns is the first one, I think.
All right. What would be your weapon of choice in a zombie apocalypse?
Bow and arrow.
Name your top 3 favorite cars.
So Jeep, like a Jeep, not
Wrangler.
Toyota Hilux. And I want to get one of the new Land Cruisers.
They do look cool.
Yeah.
So you're purely off-road guy. Do you read Jack Carr? Because he's all about these things.
So I actually have never read any of his books.
They're good.
Yeah,
they're good.
I need to.
If you could invite 3 people to dinner, living or dead, who would they be?
Ooh, one of them would be Napoleon, Caesar, and Washington.
Good. What's the most interesting place you've ever been?
Interesting place I have ever been. Probably there's a tiny little Buddhist temple in the mountains in Korea that we didn't know existed, and it's literally just giant wooden doors into a cave. That's
wow.
Yeah, it was super cool. We found it.
Very cool. What's the worst piece of advice you ever got about business?
Take it slow.
What's one job nobody could pay you enough to do?
One job, vegan lobbyist.
How many 7-year-olds do you think you could fight off?
20 at least.
What's your guilty pleasure or something you're embarrassed to admit you like?
I'm a big gaming nerd.
That's not. Yeah. That's cool now.
Yeah.
It was rough in the 80s, but
yeah,
it's
people
cool
want to do that for a living when they grow up.
What
along with being cool.
What celebrity would you most like to switch lives with? And this is like a have to answer, so it's not like a knock on your family and friends, or But it's like if you had to switch.
If I had to switch, I tell you who. You know who'd be?
I don't know.
Give me access. Give me access to Oprah's bank accounts.
There you go. I'd like to see you as a.
I've been on Oprah.
What's been your favorite? You've been on Oprah?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good discussion point that we'll have next time.
I'm telling you, man. We can. Yeah.
Folks, this has been Steve LeNoir, real estate agent to the stars.
Yeah.
Bow hunter.
Yeah.
paid by Bass Pro Shops and $1,000 worth of generic gear per month.
Yep. No, per year.
Here to teach you about entrepreneurship. How do we find you on the internet?
StephenLeNoir.com, Stephen LeNoir on Facebook, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I kind of wanted like your Instagram to be something really weird, you know, like it's StephenLeNoir.com, Stephen Leroux, and then like, you know,
I think it's just
at
LeNoir.
the Dingleberry Dictionary.
Spicy Dingleberry on Instagram.
No, I think it's just at LeNoir with an underscore in between the E and the N.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Of course,
I appreciate
man.
it.
Anytime.
We'll see you next week.